The Throne of the Mechas. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1451. Unspeakable Things. Nia, run. Get your mech moving. Amanda shouted, urging Nia. Run. How? Nia's face was as pale as paper. He watched Hellas flying towards him in the mech, and his body trembled uncontrollably because of fear. Only when he faced Hellas in person did Nia know what a terrifying enemy Xia Xingchen was fighting. Boom. Boom. The earth continued to tremble, and the mountains in the distance collapsed. There were whispers from under the ground, ringing in everyone's ears. Boom. The earth suddenly cracked, and a bottomless cave appeared. A huge pillar of light emerged from the depths of the cave, like a spear of light piercing the sky. The lead grey clouds in the sky were also pierced by this spear of light, and it could be seen that the lost world was full of raging space storms. And this pillar of light appeared right between Hellas and the time mech, like a galaxy blocking Hellas's pursuit. What is that? Hellas felt a chill in his heart. He felt that there was something extremely terrifying lurking deep in the cave, staring at him with eager eyes. The sixth sense of a legendary mecha master is very accurate. For a strong man like Hellas, his sixth sense can almost predict the future. No, Xia Xingchen is not dead. I'm uneasy. Although Hellas knew that there was a huge danger in the light column, he could not sleep or eat without seeing Xia Xingchen being killed with his own eyes. Take a risk. I must take a risk. Hellas made up his mind and drove the mecha directly into the light column, wanting to pass through the light column, catch up with the time mecha, and kill Xia Xingchen with his own hands. However, the moment Hellas entered the light column, boom, a 20-meter thick grey tentacle stretched out from the cave below. The tentacle was covered with thousands of eyes. It was extremely clever and wrapped Hellas's mecha in one go. Through the cockpit glass, Hellas saw a basketball-sized eye outside the window, staring at him, and suddenly blinked. Ah! Hellas screamed, and endless whispers flooded into his mind, like a black tide, drowning him completely. This was not a physical attack, but an attack on the spiritual level. Hellas felt that he was trapped in endless darkness, and there were countless voices whispering around him. Every bite of these voices had a terrible power that could drive people crazy. No. Hellas roared, and his mental power suddenly burst out, tearing the darkness apart. The space blade flew in all directions, cutting the huge grey tentacles into pieces. Hoo. Hellas was covered in cold sweat and panting. He ran out of the range of the light column, like he was escaping, and did not dare to step in again. Just a moment ago, Hellas saw the darkest, oldest, and most terrifying thing in the universe. He could not recall it, because even if he recalled a little bit of information about this thing, Hellas would go completely crazy, fall into madness, and never wake up. Ah. Hellas suddenly gave up chasing us. Nia looked happy. He's not afraid of us. He's afraid of the thousand brain worm. Amanda hugged her shoulders with both hands, curled up in a corner, and couldn't stop shaking. She had just heard the whisper, and her spirit was strongly shocked. That huge tentacle, Nia said in astonishment. It doesn't look strong, and Hellas chopped it off in an instant. The thousand brain worm has thousands of tentacles, and Hellas only chopped off one of them. Amanda trembled. One of them. Nia was startled, and his face changed. One of the tentacle of the thousand brain worm is 20 meters thick, which can wrap up Hellas's mecha. So how big is the body of the thousand brain worm? Nia didn't dare to think about it any further. Escape. No matter what. The thousand brain worm seems to be targeting Hellas. Let's take the opportunity to escape. Nia recovered some of his mental strength and drove the mecha away quickly in the direction away from the light column. Looking across the light column, seeing the back of Nia and Xia Xingchen fleeing, Hellas was unwilling, but he didn't dare to go any further. Captain, let's chase him. Guan Yu didn't know what happened to Hellas, and flew into the air in his mecha, anxiously saying, chase. Hellas looked at Guan Yu coldly. Do you know what is blocking us? Guan Yu was confused, and shook his head. According to Xia Xingchen, isn't it the parasite called thousand brain worm? It's just a worm. Didn't the captain easily chop its body into pieces? Idiot. That's just a section of its tentacles. It's an unimaginable behemoth. If it wants, the entire lost world will be turned upside down by it. Hell is cursed. Guan Yu and others were shocked. What should we do? Let Xia Xingchen escape like this? Guan Yu muttered in a low voice. Let him run away. Alice shook his head. Even if he escapes temporarily, it will be useless. His body was cut into 2 halves. Even if he was sent to the best hospital on the Imperial Shianyuan Star immediately, even if he grew a pair of legs again, it would take a long time. What's more, this is a lost world. A cruel battlefield. The only result of Xia Xingchen's serious injury is death. And Hellas looked at the direction where Nia escaped from a distance. His nose twitched slightly, and sneered. In the direction they fled, I have smelled the smell of the storm coming. That area will soon be swallowed by the storm. We just need to stop them, and prevent them from entering the safe area. They will be torn into pieces by the space storm. Retreat. Hellas made a prompt decision, and issued a retreat order, taking Guan Yu and others away from the light column, and deploying defenses at the edge of the safe area in front. In a canyon, the whistling sound of the space storm came from all around. At the bottom of the canyon, a silver mecha was hidden behind a stone. Huff, huff, huff. Nia gasped violently, but a look of joy flashed across his face. Being able to escape from Hellas, whether it was luck or not, made Nia feel very excited. I really escaped. It was like a dream. Amanda's face was full of disbelief. Cough, cough, cough. With a violent cough, Xia Xingchen, with only half of his body left, woke up. Xia Xingchen, how do you feel? Are you feeling better? Amanda hurriedly walked up, put a hand on Xia Xingchen's forehead, and used her mental power to sense his injuries. Thank you for risking your lives to save me. But, I've become like this, a useless person. It's not safe here anymore, and the space storm will hit soon. Leave me here, and run for your life. Xia Xingchen shook his head, and looked at his empty lower body. Although he could not feel the pain temporarily, because of Amanda's treatment, Xia Xingchen knew very well that his injuries could not be healed in a short time. The space storm is coming, and the safe area will continue to shrink. The contestants who were hiding will soon be unable to hide anymore, and will eventually have to fight hand to hand. A bloody killing is about to begin. Xia Xingchen can foresee how fierce the battle will be in the final safe area. In such a cruel battlefield, even a tiny trauma can become a fatal wound. What's more, Xia Xingchen's injuries are so serious. Even if Nia desperately rescues himself, in the end, Xia Xingchen's only ending is death. Chapter 1452 Life Potion. Xia Xingchen, you are called the Man of Miracles. You have caused miracles again and again. If I can cure you, can you find a way to let Nia and I leave the lost world alive? Amanda stared at Xia Xingchen and said in a deep voice, leave alive. Amanda, your request is too much. There is a raging space storm outside. Hellas must have brought people to wait for us at the edge of the safe area. There is also the terrifying giant thousand brainworm underground. In addition, the safe area is reduced to the end, and there are nearly 20 planetary level mecha divisions fighting desperately. All 3 of us can leave the lost world alive. Impossible. Too difficult. Nia looked frustrated and shook his head. Besides, Xia Xingchen has become like this, with only half of his body left, and it is impossible for him to do anything. Nia sighed. Amanda, otherwise we will listen to Xia Xingchen's instructions. Leave him here, and leave immediately. Maybe there is still a glimmer of hope. Nia looked more desperate than Xia Xingchen. Xia Xingchen, tell me your answer. Amanda shook her head and ignored Nia, staring at Xia Xingchen. Can you really heal me? Let my lost legs grow back. Xia Xingchen's dead eyes suddenly flickered with light, just like a phoenix reborn from the ashes, and his desire for life was rekindled in his heart. Xia Xingchen's character has always been unyielding. Even if he was trapped in the Shianyuan Star execution ground, Xia Xingchen never gave up. However, the situation this time was too bad, and only half of Xia Xingchen's body was left, so he was so desperate. However, when Amanda said a possibility, Xia Xingchen immediately ignited his fighting spirit. I have a way. But, it is very dangerous. Tell me your answer first. Amanda said in a deep voice. Yes. Xia Xingchen said in a deep voice. I have already arranged a way out. A surefire way. A way for the three of us to defeat all the strong ones, become awakened ones, and leave the lost world safely. If you can cure me, I can guarantee that my method has a 100% success rate. If there is still time. 3 people all become awakened ones? How is that possible? Nia couldn't help but exclaimed, shaking his head like a rattle, muttering, impossible, absolutely impossible. This is simply a fantasy. Amanda also hesitated slightly, biting her lips with her white teeth. Looking at the firm look on Xia Xingchen's face, she finally nodded and said in a deep voice, okay. Xia Xingchen, I believe you. Amanda took out a bottle of green potion, hesitated for a while, and said to Xia Xingchen, I once said that my dream is to study the secret of the self-healing factor in my body. If successful, the human lifespan will be greatly extended, and diseases will no longer take human lives. Humans will become the most powerful race in the Milky Way. As long as the lifespan is long enough, there are many geniuses among humans, and there will always be people who can break through and evolve into celestial beings. Humans will also become a celestial race standing at the top of the universe. Xia Xingchen nodded. You said so. Amanda smiled bitterly and said, but I failed. So far, my research has made almost no progress. If there is any progress, it is this bottle of green X life potion. This bottle of potion embodies my life's hard work. According to my successful research, people who drink this bottle of potion will gain super self-healing abilities that are no less than mine. This bottle of X life potion can make me grow legs again. Xia Xingchen's body shook and his face showed joy. That's right. However, opportunities and crises coexist. This potion has a huge flaw. In fact, I named it X because I don't know the exact pharmacology of this potion. In fact, I just extracted some cells from my body to keep them active. Amanda shook her head and continued to explain, due to the existence of self-healing ability, the cells in my body are extremely vital, can be unlimited division, and are extremely aggressive, and will attack other cells. Xia Xingchen, you graduated from the Imperial Military Academy, and biology is also your major. You should know what I'm talking about. Hiss. Xia Xingchen took a breath of cold air, and his face was full of astonishment. Cancer cells after a long time. Xia Xingchen whispered 3 words. Your cells sound like cancer cells. You are right. Amanda nodded slightly. For ordinary people, my cells are cancer cells. If you drink this potion, it is very likely that your organs will be necrotic on a large scale. This is the risk I'm talking about. Give it to me. Xia Xingchen did not hesitate at all, with a faint smile on his face, and stretched out his hand to Amanda. Will you consider it again? Amanda was shocked that Xia Xingchen made the decision so quickly. Do I have any other choice? Xia Xingchen smiled bitterly and pointed at his half-broken body. X life potion is my only hope. It's also our only hope. Amanda looked at Xia Xingchen and handed over the green potion in her hand. I admire your courage. I hope you can bring us miracles again. Xia Xingchen took the X life potion and drank it with his head tilted back. A stream of hot warmth passed through his throat and entered Xia Xingchen's body. It's so hot. Xia Xingchen felt like he had drunk a glass of strong liquor. After the potion entered his stomach, it quickly turned into a warm current and entered his limbs. It hurts. The warmth quickly dissipated and turned into a needle-like pain. The X-Life potion began to take effect. Some self-healing cells began to invade Xia Xingchen's body, setting off a war at the cellular level. It hurts so much. It hurts more than when my body was cut off. That kind of pain was on the physical level. The pain now is on the cellular level. Xia Xingchen gritted his teeth, his forehead covered with cold sweat. Even in such pain, he still endured it without making a sound. Tough guy. Nia felt cold all over when he saw Xia Xingchen's distorted face. His perseverance is as admirable as his courage. Amanda said to Nia, let's wait for him outside. A strong man like Xia Xingchen should not like others to see him in such a miserable state now. Yeah. Nia nodded suddenly and sighed in his heart that women are indeed very meticulous. He turned to Xia Xingchen and said, brother, we'll wait for you outside. Good luck. Seeing Nia and Amanda leave the cave, Xia Xingchen forced himself to sit up, gritted his teeth and meditated, trying to suppress the pain through meditation. Chapter 1453 A Blessing in Disguise. There was no part of Xia Xingchen's body that didn't hurt, especially the wound on his waist, which seemed to be torn apart, and his teeth were almost broken. Logically speaking, Xia Xingchen couldn't enter a meditative state under the interference of such extreme pain. However, Xia Xingchen's whole body and mind were fighting against the pain, and his attention had never been so focused. When Xia Xingchen came to his senses, he found that he had entered a wonderful state. The pain in his body had completely disappeared. Xia Xingchen couldn't even feel his body, and his soul was floating in the air. Although his body was damaged, his soul was still intact. Xia Xingchen was extremely shocked, and suddenly realized that this wonderful soul state was not the unity of heaven and man state mentioned in the unity of heaven and man technique. The unity of heaven and man technique pursues the state of unity of heaven and man. The human soul is integrated with the universe. In Xia Xingchen's sea of consciousness, the spiritual power planet slowly rose. Wow. The spiritual power planet actually slowly broke apart and turned into pure spiritual power energy, forming a vortex that slowly rotated, like a dazzling galaxy vortex. The star swirl continued to expand, and the spiritual energy became thinner, like a layer of gauze. After expanding to the limit, the star swirl suddenly contracted and turned into a spiritual power planet again. The planet flickered with strange light, green, gold, red, and colorful. Various energies gathered together and finally merged into white light and entered a crystal pyramid. Expand, contract, expand, contract again. The star swirl transformed by spiritual power was like a beating heart. With a special rhythm, it completely melted a large amount of faith power, making the star vortex become as real as a substance and even larger. The spiritual power planet turned into a star vortex. This is an abnormality that only occurs at the planetary level. By chance, I entered the mysterious state of unity between heaven and man. The large amount of faith power stored in the source of faith was refined to make up for the lack of spiritual power. Breakthrough in one fell swoop, from the nebula level to the planetary level. Xia Xingchen knew very well what happened to him, and was very excited. It's easy to condense the star vortex. It's hard to keep it. Stabilize the realm at the planetary level. Xia Xingchen knew that he had reached the most critical moment. If there was a slight mistake, all the previous efforts would be wasted. Work harder. Stabilize the realm. In Xia Xingchen's sea of consciousness, the starry sky vortex rotated clockwise, counterclockwise, expanded, and shrunk. These were all signs of unstable realms. What Xia Xingchen could do was to constantly manipulate the source of faith, refine the stored power of faith into mental power, and inject the energy into the star vortex. The star vortex was originally translucent and looked a little blurry. With the influx of a large amount of mental power, it became more and more substantial. Time passed by minute. Xia Xingchen continued to refine mental power and stabilize the realm. The starry sky vortex in the sea of consciousness became clearer and clearer, and finally became no different from the star vortex in the starry sky. It's almost time. Explode. Xia Xingchen suddenly clenched his fist and let out a roar. Boom. A huge explosion occurred in the center of the starry sky vortex, just like the big explosion at the birth of the universe. The mental energy was compressed to an extreme and suddenly exploded. As if pierced by a drill, a black hole appeared there. Countless energies were absorbed into it, forming a huge vortex. The energy was entangled and tangled crazily, and finally gathered at one point. But Xia Xingchen's mind was filled with endless light. When the light faded, 4 planets condensed at the original position of the starry sky vortex. The planets were wrapped in white halos, like light balls, attracting each other and orbiting like celestial bodies. These 4 planets were different from the original spiritual power planets. The original spiritual power planets were simply condensed by spiritual power, without any structure, just like a snowball, just simply kneaded together. However, the current planets can be called planets. In essence, they are composed of a large number of crystal pyramids. Countless transparent pyramid crystals condensed into 4 planetary light balls with an extremely stable structure. Powerful and stable spiritual fluctuations spread from the 4 white light balls. It's done. I've entered the planetary level. Other planetary levels can only form one planet after the star swirl explodes. However, I have formed 4. In other words, in addition to my original body, I have 3 spiritual clones. 1 more than before. I can drive 4 holy beast mechas at the same time. Xia Xingchen's heart trembled, and 3 clones immediately appeared in his sea of consciousness. The appearance of the clones was also very different from before. The previous clones were just a vague mist, and it was barely possible to see that it was Xia Xingchen. The current clones are like life-size statues carved from crystal. Crystal clones. The spiritual strength of each clone is more than twice as strong as before. My spiritual power level has been improved. Successfully entered the planetary level. What about my body? If the body is destroyed, no matter how strong the spiritual power is, it will be useless. Xia Xingchen's heart trembled. Humans are not spirit beings, and it is impossible to exist in the state of spiritual bodies. The body is the cornerstone of the spirit. Without the body, even the greatest spirit will perish. Xia Xingchen woke up from his meditative state and returned to reality. He was surprised to find that his lost legs had grown back. Omniscience. Xia Xingchen immediately mobilized his mental power and dispersed it to various organs of his body and found that his body had undergone tremendous changes. Xia Xingchen achieved legend and broke through the gene lock. His body underwent a major change at the genetic level. This was evolution. However, although that change was important, it was far from perfect. This time, Xia Xingchen's organs, skin, muscles, fascia, bones, bone marrow, etc. once again underwent incredible changes. He once again broke through the gene lock and completed the evolution. The ancient celestial genes hidden deep in the genes continued to decompose and combine to replace the original genes. Life has undergone a second transformation. The feeling of the body is wonderful. Every cell in the body is full of vitality. I no longer feel tired. Xia Xingchen was extremely shocked. He reached out and took out a small knife from the portable space and slashed it towards his palm. Swish. The knife was extremely sharp, and a deep scar was cut on the palm that could be seen to the bone. However, in less than 10 seconds, the scar healed at a speed visible to the naked eye and disappeared without leaving any scars. After this transformation, the biggest change in Xia Xingchen's body was that he gained super self-healing ability. Miyamoto Kenichi once bathed in snake blood and gained a strong self-healing ability. My current self-healing ability is far better than his. More importantly, I turned a disaster into a blessing and successfully entered the planetary level. I passed the hurdle from nebula level to planetary level. The next 3 stages of the planetary level are relatively much easier. Moreover, I'm now at the same planetary level as Hellas. I will no longer be crushed by his realm. I have the strength to fight. Xia Xingchen's heart was burning, and his fists were clenched tightly. Chapter 1454. Back Road. Outside the cave. Why can't I hear Xia Xingchen's voice? Nia looked worried and whispered, "It can't be." Amanda's face was also very ugly. She shook her head and said, "The clinical trial of X-Life agent has a 1 in 10,000 chance of success. Even Xia Xingchen may not be able to survive. Let's go in and take a look. If he is really in trouble, bury him properly." Okay. Nia nodded. He no longer had any hope in his heart. However, at this moment, a strong breath rushed out from the depths of the cave. At the same time, it was accompanied by a hearty and joyful laugh. Xia Xingchen. He is not dead. Not only is he not dead, but he is laughing. It must be successful. Nia and Amanda looked delighted and rushed into the cave. Ah. Xia Xingchen, your legs are back. Amanda saw Xia Xingchen standing in the middle of the cave with a smile on his face and exclaimed, "Not just the legs." Nia was surprised. I feel that Xia Xingchen's spiritual fluctuations are different from before, and they are even stronger. Ah. You have actually entered the planetary level. My god. Xia Xingchen smiled faintly, bowed to Nia and Amanda and thanked them. I'm lucky. Not only did I gain a powerful self-healing ability through the X-Life potion, but I also turned a disaster into a blessing and successfully entered the planetary level. My strength has increased a lot. Miracle. It's a miracle. Amanda couldn't help but smack her lips. He is less than 30 years old, and he is a legendary mecha master at the planetary level. An absolute genius. Rare in the world. Nia also exclaimed. Thanks to your rescue, I can survive. Xia Xingchen is very humble and knows how to repay kindness. Now is not the time to talk about this. Xia Xingchen, go outside and take a look. The space storm is already in front of us. What should we do next? What is your plan? Amanda urged. Yeah. Xia Xingchen nodded, walked out of the cave, and looked up at the sky around him. The space storm was less than 1 kilometer away from the canyon. In a very short time, the space storm will completely cover the canyon. By then, even if you try to escape, you may not be able to escape. I just went to the front to investigate. Alice is indeed leading people to intercept him. What should we do? Should we kill him? He will never think that your injuries have recovered and your strength has increased again. You are barely able to fight, Nia said anxiously. Alice hearing this name, Xia Xingchen's pupils suddenly shrank to the size of a needle tip, and a faint anger appeared on his face. Alice, my grudge against you will definitely be resolved. However, now is not the time. Xia Xingchen turned his gaze to Nia and Amanda and asked, based on what you two know, how can we leave the Lost World? Nia immediately said, according to the arrangement of the Promoter Alliance, the 24 of us will survive and fight in the Lost World. Excluding those who were killed and those who voluntarily gave up, the last 3 are the Awakeners. They can leave as winners. In other words, if you want to leave safely, there are only 2 ways, giving up and winning. Giving up is no longer feasible. Amanda shook her head. I lost my mecha and have no combat ability. Logically speaking, I have given up. However, I can't get in touch with the Alliance at all. Sure enough. Xia Xingchen nodded slightly. These situations were all within his expectations. Then we only have one way left. Become the winner. You have a way. Great. Nia and Amanda were ecstatic to see Xia Xingchen's confidence. At the same time, they were also very curious about what method Xia Xingchen would come up with to enable the 3 of them to win in the final killing field. Could it be that Xia Xingchen still has a key trump card that he hasn't revealed yet? Xia Xingchen, what should we do next? Nia said anxiously. Wait. Xia Xingchen smiled faintly and answered with only one word. Wait. Right here? But the space storm is coming soon. What are we waiting for? Nia looked surprised. Wait for a miracle to happen. Xia Xingchen was not panicked at all. He returned to the cave, entered the cockpit, and closed his eyes to meditate. Whoosh. The space storm was getting closer and closer. The surrounding land was torn apart, and all the matter was swallowed by the storm, and turned into nothing. Amanda and Nia were anxious, like ants on a hot pot, walking back and forth in place. But Xia Xingchen was not panicked at all, just closed his eyes and meditated, and didn't know what medicine was sold in the gourd. Xia Xingchen, we are already surrounded by the space storm. We can't leave, even if we want to, Nia said impatiently. Is your way to wait for death? The space storm is much more powerful than the millipede and Hellas. If you fall into the center of the storm, you will definitely die. Amanda couldn't help shouting. Here it comes. Xia Xingchen suddenly opened his eyes. Boom. A black hole suddenly appeared in the space in front of Xia Xingchen. The hole became bigger and bigger, and a beautiful figure of a young girl jumped out of it. Seeing that Xia Xingchen was safe and sound, a sweet smile appeared on her little face, and she called out in a delicate voice, Master. It was the star-devouring worm Queen Xiaobei. Behind Xiaobei, a huge tunnel worm flashed by and quickly shrank back into the depths of the hole. Xiaobei followed Xia Xingchen's instructions and successfully captured the tunnel worm Erichi in the asteroid belt according to the starry sky coordinates he provided, and let Erichi use his innate ability to dig a wormhole from the universe to the lost world. The black hole was the wormhole dug by Erichi. Who is this girl? And this space tunnel? Master? Is she Xia Xingchen's maid? Seeing Xiaobei suddenly appear, Nia and Amanda were both confused. It's too late to explain now. Let's enter the space tunnel and avoid the space storm. Xia Xingchen waved his hand and took the 2 people and Xiaobei into the tunnel. Boom. As soon as they left the cave, the space storm came roaring and turned everything into nothing. The nature of the space storm is special. It is a violent energy. Only an independent space can avoid the space storm. The wormhole tunnel dug by the tunnel worm is a space with a stable structure. Even the space storm cannot penetrate. Xiaobei, thanks to you this time. Xia Xingchen was also scared. It was a close call just now. If Xiaobei was a few seconds slower, the three of them would be torn apart by the space storm. Xiaobei smiled sweetly. It liked Xia Xingchen's praise. Who is Xia Xingchen? What is this place? Explain it quickly. We are really anxious. Nia scratched his head anxiously. Yes. Since we are safe, don't keep us in suspense. Amanda also urged. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 1455 Space Tunnel. Nia and Amanda risked their lives to save Xia Xingchen. Xia Xingchen didn't want to deceive the two, so she revealed Xiaobei's identity as the queen of the star-eating worms, and explained clearly how to use soul induction to contact Xiaobei, let it find the tunnel worm Erichi, and dig a space tunnel to the lost world. After listening to what Xia Xingchen said, the two couldn't come back to their senses for a long time. After a long time, Amanda breathed a sigh of relief and said repeatedly, "Unbelievable. Wild imagination. It turns out that everything was already within your calculations. Awesome. Really awesome." Nia was so surprised that he couldn't speak and nodded repeatedly, agreeing with Amanda. Xia Xingchen smiled. "You're too kind. Although I had a plan in advance, things changed too fast and caught me off guard. For example, Alice suddenly appeared and wanted to kill me, and the Thousand Brains worm appeared much later. If it weren't for Nia's time ability and Amanda's X-Life potion, I would be a useless person if I wasn't dead now. This is what God proposes. Master, is it the Hellas who was chasing you before? He is the murderer who killed Queen Vera. I must cut him into pieces. Only then can I relieve the hatred in my heart." Xiaobei gritted his teeth and said viciously. Xiaobei was once captured by the Iron and Blood team and locked in a container, suffering a lot. In addition, Hellas chased Queen Vera and then chased Xia Xingchen. Xiaobei and Hellas can be said to have a blood feud. It's him. Xia Xingchen said calmly, "But it may not be your turn to take action. Hellas hurt me so badly. I have to end his life with my own hands, to wash away the shame." Kill Hellas? Nia and Amanda were both stunned and looked at each other. "Don't we go back to the Milky Way through this space tunnel immediately?" Amanda asked curiously. "Why do we have to stay here? To win." Xia Xingchen said in a deep voice, "If we leave the lost world now, even if we can survive, we will be treated as escaping and giving up. This space tunnel is an independent space between the Milky Way and the lost world. If we stay here, the Alliance will definitely assume that we are in the lost world. We just need to wait quietly, and the space storm will swallow up the entire lost world." All the contestants failed, and the three of us survived without any effort and became awakened. There is such a way. We have been avoiding the battle, hiding in the space storm, waiting for others to kill each other, and finally all swallowed by the storm. Isn't this cheating? Nia and Amanda were both shocked. Cheating? It's cheating, I guess. But the Alliance doesn't have any rules that say you can't win in this way. Besides, within the Alliance, Xia Xingchen didn't continue. The Lost World, the Thousand Brains, the Ascendant Alliance, the weird meditation room. These things are inextricably linked. Xia Xingchen connected them and drew a ladder to the truth in his mind. Now, everything is clear. Just get back to the Alliance alive. All mysteries will be solved. The truth will be revealed to the world. Xia Xingchen clenched his fists tightly. You want to stay here? Maintaining this space tunnel will cost me a lot of vitality. A familiar voice suddenly broke into Xia Xingchen's mind. A giant worm nearly a kilometer long slowly appeared in the dark of the space tunnel, with countless compound eyes on its head staring at Xia Xingchen. It was a tunnel worm Erichi. Tunnel worm. What a big tunnel worm. It's a store-level tunnel worm, extremely rare. No wonder it can dig out a space tunnel with a lost world. Amanda and Nia found Erichi's figure, and they were horrified, and took a step back. "Erichi, are you looking for death? What tone of voice do you use to talk to my master? I don't think you have suffered enough last time." Xiaobei was furious, and waved his little fist at Erichi's huge body. "Master? The dignified mother queen of the star-eating worm, such a noble existence, actually regards a weak human as the master? How ridiculous. Erachi's body like a hill trembled, as if laughing. Who is my master? What's your business? I think you are really itchy. Come on, come on, I will teach you a lesson again. Xiaobei clenched his fist and said angrily. When Xiaobei captured Erachi in the asteroid belt, he beat it hard, and it was convinced, and only then agreed to Xiaobei to dig a wormhole to rescue Xia Xingchen. Xiaobei. Xia Xingchen dodged, and stood in front of Xiaobei. He looked up at Erachi and smiled faintly. Erachi, from what you said, you think I'm weak, so you look down on me. That's right. I look down on you humans. Weak humans. Despicable humans. I'm willing to help the honorable star-devouring queen. I don't want to help dirty and weak humans. Xia Xingchen had killed Erachi's two offspring, and he was very resentful. Come on. I'll give you a chance. A chance to fight me. If you win, I'll let Xiaobei release you immediately. If you lose, you have to listen to my orders temporarily. Xia Xingchen said with a smile. Haha, good. Erachi was ecstatic. He was just worrying about how to get out of Xiaobei's hands. Unexpectedly, this stupid human jumped out by himself. In the asteroid belt, Erachi had fought with Xia Xingchen before, and knew his strength very well. Although Xia Xingchen was very strong, and killed his two children. However, according to the level of humans, he was only a nebula level mecha master, while Erachi was a star level tunnel worm. The fighting power of the Zerg is naturally higher than that of humans. A star level tunnel worm can face 3 human star level mecha masters without losing. Master, your mental power has improved quickly, but, Xiaobei persuaded for Xia Xingchen's safety. No buts. I just got promoted to the planetary level. I also want to test my strength. Xia Xingchen's mind moved, and his main body stood still without moving. He condensed 3 crystal clones, driving the 3 sacred beast Mechas of Azure Dragon, Vermilion Bird, and Black Tortoise, and surrounded Erachi. To deal with you, I don't need to do it myself. The clones are enough. Xia Xingchen smiled faintly, full of confidence. Arrogant and ignorant human. Erachi roared. It had beaten Xia Xingchen, and made him flee, and this time was no exception. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Xia Xingchen took the initiative, and saw the 3 sacred beast Mechas of blue, red, and white flying through the dark space tunnel like lightning, leaving 3 tracks of different colors. So fast, it's unobservable with the naked eye. Amanda and Nia were both shocked. The speed of the 3 holy beast Mechas was even faster than before. After Xia Xingchen entered the planetary level, he could fully exert the performance of the holy beast Mechas. Chapter 1456 Conquered. Xia Xingchen is already a strong man, good at fighting. He actually wants to fight a star level tunnel worm. Nia and Amanda couldn't help showing strong interest on their faces. They had both witnessed Xia Xingchen's fighting power, which was amazing. And now, Xia Xingchen has just broken through the nebula level and become a planetary level strongman. A strong mental fluctuation is coming from his body, comparable to the star level, which makes people look forward to it. Xia Xingchen's main body stood below, with a serious expression, and he dared not slack off for this battle. Having just become a planetary level strongman, Xia Xingchen didn't know how much his fighting power had improved. Xia Xingchen fought with the tunnel worm Erachi, on the one hand, to establish his prestige and make it restrain itself. On the other hand, he used the battle with Erachi to find out his own strength. Prepare for the upcoming battle. Boom. 3 sacred beast Mechas flew to the tunnel worm, flying around its huge body at high speed, and did not attack rashly. Master. Xiaobei looked worried. It was not that he didn't believe Xia Xingchen. However, it had fought with Erachi not long ago, and was very familiar with the strength of this tunnel worm. Xia Xingchen's strength has improved greatly, but at the initial stage of the planetary level, it is impossible for him to be an opponent in a battle with a star level strongman. Human. Since you don't attack first, then I will attack first. Erachi sent out a mental wave, opened his huge mouth, and spit out acid all over the sky, covering the 3 holy beast Mechas. Tunnel worms are good at acid attacks. Its acid is highly corrosive. Even if it touches a little bit, any metal will be corroded. Master, be careful. The acid attack of the tunnel worm is very powerful. Even I have to avoid it temporarily. Xiaobai reminded worriedly. Want to dodge? Erach snorted coldly, and a huge black net suddenly covered the three holy beast mechas from above, and quickly shrank to limit the range of the mechas. Acid and giant nets are the specialties of tunnel worms. Not only that, Erach roared, and after the giant mouth spewed out acid, it roared, and a powerful energy surged out of its body. The space was broken by this energy, forming a deep space gully, which blasted towards Xia Xingchen's body. This is the strongest talent skill of the tunnel worm space shockwave. Xia Xingchen once killed Erach's 2 children, and it has always held a grudge. The purpose of its provocation is not only to get away, but also to take the opportunity to kill Xia Xingchen. Acid attack, black net binding, space shockwave. The 3 attacks complement each other. Even a star level strongman will find it very tricky. Xia Xingchen raised the corner of his mouth, and a faint smile emerged. After he entered the planetary level, his mental power was greatly improved, and the speed of the Holy Beast Mecha was greatly improved. He could completely dodge Erach's attack before the black net closed. However, Xia Xingchen did not intend to dodge. Instead, he chose to fight hard. A scorching sun hit. The Suzuki Mecha took the lead, and turned into a burning fireball in midair. The black flame of destruction burned fiercely, releasing endless light and heat, like a supernova explosion, and the heat wave rolled, filling the entire space tunnel. In an instant, the acid rain in the sky was evaporated by the high temperature and disappeared completely. At the same time, thunder roared. The blue thunder light was jumping all over the body of the Qinglang Mecha, and it turned into a circle of dazzling thunder halo beside it. The dragon's mouth opened wide, emitting a lightning energy beam like a disaster, sweeping like a storm, and bombarding the black net. The black net was instantly torn into a big hole. Ah, my black net. Erachi felt distressed. This big net was made by it after countless years. It can be said that it is more important than Erachi's children, but it was torn into a big hole by Xia Xingchen. It felt that its heart was bleeding. Die. Erachi roared loudly, increasing the energy output of the space shockwave. This energy wave that tore the space surged towards Xia Xingchen's body. Whoosh! The black tortoise mech turned into a silver stream of light, flew out of the black net from the hole, and instantly arrived in front of Xia Xingchen's body. The 2 huge mech arms merged together, and the cold air filled the air, condensing into a huge ice shield. Boom! The space shockwave hit the ice shield, making a loud noise. No matter how angry Erachi was, and how much energy he increased, the ice shield and the black tortoise mech did not move at all. At the same time, the azure dragon mech and the vermilion bad mech, holding lightning and flame spears respectively, arrived in front of Erachi, releasing a thunder dragon and a fire dragon, and rushed towards him. Bang! 2 energy dragons, one blue and one red, hit Erachi's back, shattering the hard shell on his back into pieces. A bloody mess. Ah! Erachi screamed, and his body was covered with a metal shell, which was extremely hard. Even an enemy stronger than him would find it difficult to break the shell. However, under Xia Xingchen's attack, Erachi's armor was like paper, vulnerable to a single blow. The space shockwave was interrupted, and the basalt mecha was unscathed. It slowly walked out of the thick smoke, flew low to Erachi's side, and joined the battle. Boom boom boom. 3 spiral spears, carrying lightning, ice, and fire, 3 different energies, constantly bombarded Erachi's body. Where the spears passed, Erachi's armor was either burning, or frozen and cracked, or pierced by lightning, and his whole body was covered with wounds. This is the master's strength. Even the main body didn't make a move, but only 3 clones drove the mecha, and forced the star-level tunnel worm to such a point. Xiaobei was shocked, and his clear eyes looked at Xia Xingchen in surprise. Looking at Xia Xingchen's expression, he was relaxed and free. Obviously, the master did not use his full strength. Too strong. In the battle against the star-level tunnel worm, he can actually occupy an absolute advantage. If Xia Xingchen fights Hellas again, he may not lose. Both Nia and Amanda stared at the fierce battle in the air with their eyes fixed, their faces dull, and their hearts extremely shocked. Let's end it. Xia Xingchen suddenly laughed lightly, and the 3 holy beast mechas gathered together, and the 3 color energy merged into one place, turning into a huge spiral drill head, and blasted towards Erachi. Spare my life. Erachi's whole body was bloody and his shell was blown off, which was horrible. Facing the huge spiral drill head, Erachi felt an unprecedented sense of oppression. The drill head exuded a strong breath of destruction, which made its soul tremble uncontrollably, and it could only admit defeat and beg for mercy. Xia Xingchen waved his hand, and the three mechas immediately stopped attacking and returned to his side. Xia Xingchen did not intend to kill Erachi. Without the space ability of the tunnel worm, this space tunnel would collapse immediately. Xia Xingchen just wanted to establish his prestige and let Erachi be convinced by his strength. Chapter 1457 Killing Field. The huge body of the tunnel worm Erachi crawled on the ground, his eyes full of fear. Just at that moment, Xia Xingchen controlled 3 mechas and condensed a 3-color spiral drill. If it was bombarded, Erachi would not escape death. Even ants are greedy for life, and Erachi, as a Zerg, values his own life the most. It's obviously only a planetary level, but his strength is far stronger than mine. If I didn't have the ability of space, he would have kept me to maintain the space tunnel, and he would probably have killed me. No wonder even such a noble existence as the Star-Devouring Queen regards this human youth as his master. He is different. Different from all the human mecha masters I have seen before. Erachi was shocked. It really didn't understand that the last time it saw Xia Xingchen, he was still an extremely weak existence. How long has it been? And he has grown to such a terrifying situation. In the universe, the strong prey on the weak. This is even more true among the Zerg. It is natural for the weak to respect the strong. Erachi was deeply impressed by Xia Xingchen's powerful strength and dared not disobey him. He only hoped that Xia Xingchen would let him go as agreed. After leaving the Lost World, Xia obey, go and help Erachi heal his injuries. He also needs to maintain the stability of the space tunnel. Xia Xingchen turned to Xia Obey and said, "Yes, master." Xia Obey jumped up, and his slender figure was on top of Erachi's head. He pressed his hands down, and pure life energy rushed out. Erachi's wounds were slowly healing. "Thank you." Erachi groaned comfortably, and his huge figure disappeared into the darkness, and went deep into the space tunnel to heal his wounds. "Xingchen, you really won. Too strong. Even the star level is not your opponent." Nia and Amanda came over and said happily, "Haha, with my current strength, it is too difficult to defeat the star level. I'm also lucky and just took advantage of the loophole." Xia Xingchen smiled faintly and said modestly, "What loophole?" Nia asked curiously. "Have you forgotten the space law of the Lost World? This space tunnel is too close to the Lost World and is still affected by the space law." Erachi thought he was at the star level, but in fact his strength was suppressed to the planetary level. "That's why I can easily defeat him," Xia Xingchen explained. "I see." Nia suddenly realized. "Don't underestimate yourself," Amanda said. "No matter how suppressed by the space law, this tunnel worm is also at the peak of the planetary level. It's amazing that you can defeat it. What should we do next?" Nia asked. Nia and Amanda were completely convinced by Xia Xingchen's personality, strength, and wisdom, and followed his lead. "Wait," Xia Xingchen said in a deep voice. "We just need to hide in the space tunnel and wait for the storm to pass. Now, the safe area is very small. The final killing battle should have begun." Lost World. The center of the space storm. This is an abandoned city. The city that was originally dead silent is now rumbling with the sound of artillery, smoke everywhere, and flames of war. Explosions occurred one after another, and the strong vibrations accompanied by loud rumblings shook the entire city. Cut. A red mecha holding 2 swords rotated in mid-air, like a violent red whirlwind. With a roar, the figure of the red mecha with 2 swords teleported behind its enemy. Its enemy was a brown mecha holding a shield in one hand and a battle axe in the other, and the armor on its body was extremely thick. Bang! The brown sword and shield mecha was cut into 2 ends from the middle, and fell from the air. It exploded before it landed, and turned into 2 fireballs. The mecha master had no time to activate the emergency escape device, and was engulfed by the flames, leaving no bones. Win. On the red double sword mecha was a man with yellow skin, short stature, and short hair, like an oriental samurai, with a line of blood slowly flowing down his forehead. Before the oriental samurai had time to catch his breath, a laser beam suddenly shot out from the top of a building on one side and hit the back of the mecha. "So, you actually attacked me." The back of the red double sword mecha was severely damaged, and it fell from midair with billowing smoke. The Japanese man turned around and saw that the one who attacked him was his teammate, with an expression of disbelief on his face. Ha! In the remote mecha crawling on the roof, covered with a layer of camouflage ghillie suit, the blonde mecha master Zo yawned. Her eyes were as heavy as lead, and she fell asleep on the operating table, drooling all over the operating table. From Zo's ears, 2 grey tentacles stretched out, trembling rhythmically in the air, through vibration, communicating with companions and sending signals. The Japanese man did not see this scene, and the severely damaged mecha fell downwards. Boom. At the moment of landing, the ground suddenly cracked, and a deep cave with no bottom appeared. Countless huge tentacles emerged, entangled the mecha, and dragged it into the darkness. The surviving mecha masters then realized that they not only had to compete with other contestants, but also had to be on guard against their companions at all times. God knows, have their companions been parasitized by the thousand brain worm? Xia Xingchen's prophecy has come true. In a tightly sealed basement, 3 mechas fell to the side with smoke. A mecha master has been beheaded, and blood is flowing on the ground. Ah! Don't come over. Don't come over. A surviving mecha master, curled up in the corner, his eyes full of fear, holding a laser pistol for self-defense in his hand, shouting loudly. In front of him, a middle-aged man covered in blood, with a weird smile on his face, holding a sharp axe, is walking step by step. Musk. You are crazy. You killed Amy, and now you come to kill me. The mecha master in the corner screamed loudly. Without any answer, Musk smiled, stepped on the pool of blood, and blood splashed. Bang! The mecha master in the corner finally couldn't bear it, aimed at the head of his former companion, and pulled the trigger. Boom! A laser beam hit Musk's head, and it exploded like a watermelon, with red and white splashing everywhere, and it was extremely bloody. However, despite such a fatal attack, Musk's body did not fall down. Countless grey tentacles emerged from his neck, swinging around like a whip, and one tentacle just happened to whip the survivor's wrist. Bang! The pistol fell to the ground. What kind of monster are you? The survivor's pupils reflected this horrible scene, and his face was completely distorted by fear. Swish! He was thrown to the ground by the monster, and the grey tentacles drilled into his skull from his ears like snakes. Blood splattered. Chapter 1458 The Law of Time. In the Lost World, the safe area is shrinking, only 10 kilometers in radius. Even the most skilled mech masters can no longer hide, and are forced to join the battle. On the battlefield, the smoke is everywhere, blood and flesh are flying, and the battle is extremely tragic. In addition to the remaining contestants fighting each other, there is the shadow of the thousand brainworm underground. The huge tentacles keep poking out from the cracks of the building, and attacking the mech masters. Many mech masters are parasitized by the thousand brain worm, attacking their own kind, and launching a bloody killing. Abstain. I choose to abstain. Several mech masters finally couldn't hold up their spirits, and wanted to contact the outside world. They chose to abstain and give up the qualification to become awakened. If it was the previous awakened selection competition, once the mech master chose to abstain, he would be immediately teleported back to the promoted spacecraft, and the alliance would guarantee the safety of the contestants. However, this competition was different. The mech masters had long discovered that the lost world had cut off contact with the outside world. Even if they chose to abstain, they stayed where they were without any reaction. In such a desperate situation, the mecha master could only give up the last hope of survival, throw himself into the battle, and fight his way out. No one expected that in the area that had long been stormed by the space, in an independent space, Xia Xingchen, Nia, and Amanda sat together very comfortably, drinking the fine wine taken out from Xia Xingchen's portable space and chatting easily. Xia Xingchen always arranged his schedule very full, and would not waste a bit of time. However, there is no spiritual energy in the space tunnel. Even meditation is very inefficient. Xia Xingchen is still unable to get in touch with the star domain arc. Therefore, the plan to refine the basalt ice crystal and remanufacture the basalt mecha, and the plan to make the white tiger mecha cannot be implemented for the time being. All Xia Xingchen can do now is to wait quietly. For him, this is a very rare leisure time, and he can rest and relax to his heart's content and prepare for the upcoming decisive battle. Xingchen, what do you think the alliance is doing? When will the signal be repaired? Nia and Xia Xingchen have become very close after spending time together for a while. They are already like brothers. The alliance repaired the signal. Xia Xingchen smiled, holding a glass of fine wine, and took a sip. Do you really think that the space storm blocked the signal transmission? What else? Nia was stunned, not quite understanding what Xia Xingchen meant. I'm afraid the alliance has long known the situation of the lost world. They deliberately sent us here for a special purpose. Xia Xingchen whispered. What purpose? Nia and Amanda asked hurriedly. I just said it casually. You don't have to care. Xia Xingchen laughed and evaded the question. It was not that Xia Xingchen wanted to deceive Nia and Amanda, but because Xia Xingchen's guess was shocking. If he told Nia and Amanda, they would probably not be able to accept it. Wait. When there are only 3 people left, all the mysteries will be revealed. Xia Xingchen muttered quietly and suddenly looked up at Nia, smiling and said, by the way, Nia, you are an extremely rare time-based person. Can you tell me what time is? The laws of time and space are the 2 most important laws in the universe. However, it is extremely difficult for someone like Xia Xingchen who has no talent for time and space to understand these 2 laws. It is precisely because of this that Xia Xingchen is thirsty for knowledge. It just so happens that Nia is a time-based person, and he should be able to learn a lot of knowledge related to the law of time from him, which will be of great help in understanding the mysteries of the universe in the future. Time. Nia frowned. Wait for me to think about how to express it in words. Amanda also came over. For any legendary mecha master, the opportunity to learn the law of time is rare. Time is essentially a kind of energy. An extremely special energy. We humans call time the 4th dimension. If you can transcend time, you can enter a new dimension. Nia thought for a while and decided to start with the simplest basic knowledge. Xia Xingchen and Amanda listened carefully, not missing a single word. Nia talked non-stop for 3 hours before he stopped. With his eyes shining, he looked at Xia Xingchen and Amanda and asked, I've almost finished my talk. Do you understand? Nia is a unique time-based person, an extremely special existence. This also means that he is alone. No one can understand his ability, and no teacher can guide and teach him in the cultivation of his ability. It is not easy for Nia to walk alone to where he is today. Nia really hopes that others can understand him. However, Xia Xingchen and Amanda both shook their heads, with confusion on their faces. Too difficult. Even more difficult than the most difficult medicine formula in medicine. Amanda shook her head and blushed. I could understand some of it at the beginning, but I couldn't understand it at all later. Xia Xingchen also looked ashamed. I didn't understand it either, but I wrote it all down, and will slowly comprehend it when I go back. Although Xia Xingchen didn't understand it either, he had the ability to remember everything he saw, and wrote down every word Nia said. On Nia's side, the law of time. I haven't fully comprehended it, let alone you. For the universe, humans are too small. For the long river of time, the entire human race is not even a wave. Humans want to understand the law of time, just like summer insects talking about ice. Xia Xingchen nodded slightly, agreeing with Nia's words. Nia knew that Xia Xingchen didn't understand, but he didn't get tired of explaining the mystery of time to Xia Xingchen. Time passed bit by bit. 3 days later, the 3 of them gathered together again, with solemn expressions. According to my calculations, at this point in time, the space storm has completely swallowed up the safe area. Even the survivors who made it through the killing field should have been caught in the space storm and would have died. Amanda said, yes, my calculations agree with yours. Nia nodded. The space storm should have completely covered the lost world an hour ago. No one can survive except us. But why are the 3 of us still here? We haven't become the winners and been teleported back to the Ascendant spaceship? Amanda frowned and looked at Xia Xingchen. It's very simple. There are 2 possibilities. Xia Xingchen looked calm. This situation was also within his expectations. First, my guess was wrong. The Alliance has no conspiracy and has indeed stopped observing this game. We are all abandoned. If this is the result, I have prepared a way out. Wait another 7 days, and I will let the tunnel worms dig a space tunnel and we will return to the original universe. Yes. It's good to have a way out. If this is the case, it's a waste of time. It's a pity that so many legendary mecha masters died. Nia and Amanda were relieved to see that Xia Xingchen had already thought of a way out. The probability of the first possibility is very small. The current situation is likely to be the second situation. Xia Xingchen's black pupils showed a cold light. Chapter 1459 After the Storm. The second possibility? What is it? Nia and Amanda were both curious. Someone, like us, used spatial abilities to open up an independent space, hid in the spatial storm, and avoided the final battle. Xia Xingchen said in a deep voice. Ah, using the same method as us? Nia and Amanda were both shocked. Who is it? Nia asked subconsciously, but immediately fell silent. He and Amanda looked at each other, and both of them showed a look of realization on their faces. Who else could it be? Possessing spatial abilities and being cunning, he could come up with such a way to avoid battle. Of course, it could only be Hellas, the captain of the Iron and Blood team. Could it be that Hellas is still alive? That's the only possibility. Nia and Amanda were both horrified. HMPH, what is coming, will come back sooner or later. Xia Xingchen's face was cold. Wait for the storm to end. Hellas is different from us. Our independent space was dug out by the tunnel worms. Maintaining the stability of the space consumes the mental power of the tunnel worms. And Hellas, even if he can open up a space to hide, it takes a huge amount of mental power to maintain the stability of the space. Maybe he will die of mental exhaustion before the storm ends. Yeah. Nia and Amanda both nodded. The only way for now is to wait. Time passed quickly, and in a blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. The tunnel worms keenly noticed that the space storm in the Lost World had subsided. Xia Xingchen asked Nia and Amanda to stay in the space and carefully return to the Lost World alone. He found that the storm had indeed subsided, but this world had become more fragmented and devastated. Xia Xingchen drove the mecha and flew towards the abandoned city of the last battlefield. The city had been razed to the ground, without any trace of life. Under the broken stone slabs, you can occasionally see the remains of a mecha torn into pieces, revealing that a brutal bloody battle had taken place here. However, Xia Xingchen did not find any human corpses, not even broken human tissue. No matter how terrible the space storm is, it is impossible to erase all traces. Xia Xingchen frowned and thought about it, but couldn't figure it out. Xia Xingchen. A lackey told me that there is an abnormal space fluctuation in a place not far ahead. Xiaobe contacted Xia Xingchen directly through the soul. Specific coordinates. Xia Xingchen asked for the coordinates and flew over in the mecha. The location of the coordinates is a dried up lake. It looks ordinary on the outside, and the instruments on the mecha scanned and found no clues. However, a lackey is very sure that the space fluctuation here is very strong, and there is a hidden independent space. How can it be opened? Xia Xingchen asked. Energy. Huge energy. The essence of space is a kind of energy. As long as the energy is strong enough, even the most stable space structure will break. Moreover, the structure of this space is very fragile. Erachi replied. Hellas is likely hiding in this space. He must have consumed a lot of mental energy to maintain this space for such a long time. His mental energy is likely to be exhausted. It's a good time to kill him. Xia Xingchen didn't think too long before he made up his mind and drove the Qinglang mecha into the air. Thunder roar. Xia Xingchen shouted, and the Qinglang mecha released a beam of thunder energy and bombarded the coordinates. Boom. The space shattered, and spider web-like cracks appeared. The next moment, it shattered with a loud bang, and a black hole appeared. Bang. From the broken space, a mecha fell down and fell to the ground, making a muffled sound. This is. Xia Xingchen recognized at a glance that this mecha was not Hellas's iron-blooded mecha, but Guan Yu's mecha. Whoosh. Xia Xingchen drove the mecha forward, looked down, and saw Guan Yu's condition through the glass of the cockpit, and immediately took a breath of cold air. The cockpit was full of purple tentacles of all sizes, and the space was completely filled. Guan Yu's head was squeezed in the middle of the tentacles, his eyes were closed, and he didn't know whether he was dead or alive. This Xia Xingchen felt his hair tingling and a chill all over his body. Obviously, Guan Yu was parasitized by the thousand brain worm. However, the thousand brain worm parasitizes a human body mainly to replace it. Under normal circumstances, it is definitely hidden in the cranial cavity and will not be revealed. What's going on with Guan Yu's condition? Ha ha ha. A burst of laughter came from the inside of the broken space hole. A tall mecha with black and red paint flew out. In the cockpit, Hallis's face was full of hideous smiles. His eyes were scarlet, his dark circles were very heavy, and his face was haggard. He stared at Xia Xingchen, and astonishment appeared in his eyes. "It's you, Xia Xingchen." Hallis was very surprised, and looked Xia Xingchen up and down. "You were clearly cut into two by me. How could you recover in such a short time? And how did you survive the space storm?" Xia Xingchen looked at Hallis coldly. "How you survived is how I survived." Hallis was stunned at first, and then he suddenly said, "I understand." It turns out that the guy driving the silver mecha seems to be called Nia. He is also a space ability user. No wonder he was able to save you in my hands. But I didn't seem to feel the space fluctuation at that time. Never mind. Maybe I remembered it wrong. Hallis waved his hand in annoyance and couldn't help yawning. Hallis's speculation was naturally far from the truth. Of course, Xia Xingchen would not explain to him. He looked down at Guan Yu and said coldly, "What's wrong with him? What's wrong?" The corners of Hallis' mouth turned up, revealing a cruel smile. "This kid's strength is too poor, his realm is too low, and he doesn't have enough mental power to maintain the stability of the space. There is no way. I just want to help him think of a way." Xia Xingchen's heart sank. Although Hallis looked haggard, his mental power was still strong and there was no sign of exhaustion. It turned out that it was not Hallis who opened up the space and consumed mental power to maintain the stability of the space, but Guan Yu. This was naturally because Hallis ordered Guan Yu to do so in order to preserve his own strength, which was equivalent to sacrificing him. "What method?" Xia Xingchen asked. "Thousand brain worm. I discovered that when thousand brain worm parasitizes on a person, it will greatly improve their mental strength." Humph. Anyway, this Guan Yu is also a waste, and he and the others cannot maintain space, so we will die together. It is better to let the thousand brain worm parasitize his brain, and use the power of the parasite to linger on. What a irony. A legendary mecha master, a recognized genius. In the end, he has to rely on the power of a worm. Tell me, is it funny or not? Hallis seemed to have heard the funniest thing in the world. He laughed so hard that he bent over, covered his stomach, and couldn't stand up for a long time. Xia Xingchen didn't find it funny at all. His face seemed to be covered with a layer of ice. He could only see for words from Hallis. Crazy. Chapter 1460, Fierce Battle with Hallis. Hallis, you are totally inhuman. Guan Yu admires you so much that he joined your team at all costs. You even betrayed your comrades who fought side by side with you. Xia Xingchen felt a chill in his heart. Xia Xingchen had seen many bad guys. Nicholas's cunning, Qin Yun's vanity, Andre's sadism and arrogance, the insidiousness and viciousness of the god's messenger. However, Xia Xingchen had never seen anyone more despicable than Hallis. Stop talking nonsense. Xia Xingchen, don't pretend here. You can become a legend, but didn't you step on countless bones to get to where you are today? A general success is built on the sacrifice of thousands of bones. In order to pursue power, I'm willing to sacrifice everything. Comrades who fought side by side with me? Even my biological parents can be sacrificed for power. Hallis shouted. Stop talking nonsense. I don't want to talk to a scum like you. Let's fight. Today, either you die, or I die. Xia Xingchen's eyes flashed coldly, and his mental power focused on the magic weapon system on his wrist. Or thunder spear suddenly condensed in the hands of the King Lang Mecha. Whoosh! The thunderlight jumped on the spiral spear, and the light was dazzling. Xia Xingchen was promoted to the planetary level, and his strength increased greatly. The thunder spear condensed by his mental power was dazzling, more dazzling than before. Scum! Come and die! Xia Xingchen shouted coldly. You are defeated, and you dare to be rampant. The veins on Hallis's forehead jumped violently, and his white beard and hair flew up, like an angry lion. In Hailess's eyes, Xia Xingchen was just a weak ant, and he could easily crush him to death with one finger. Being provoked by an ant, Hailess was naturally furious. Space is broken. Hailess raised his hand and used his supernatural power, and the mecha released a black shockwave. Boom. The shockwave containing terrifying energy bombarded Xia Xingchen, but was blocked by the silver-white basalt mecha's shield, making a shocking explosion. Last time, Hailess released the same trick, and the basalt mecha's ice shield shattered directly, and it was completely unable to resist. We found Hailess. It's Hailess. Xia Xingchen has already fought with Hailess. In the space tunnel of the tunnel worm Erichi, Xiaobei used the special ability of the star-devouring worm queen to project the battle scene in mid-air. Nia and Amanda were both nervous, watching the fierce battle between Xia Xingchen and Hailess. Even Erichi was hiding in the darkness, and his body couldn't stop shaking. There are still strong people among humans. Erichi was shocked. Let's not talk about Xia Xingchen for now. The older human opposite is very powerful, and has similar spatial abilities to me. Xia Xingchen, come on. Both Nia and Amanda knew that this level of battle was not something they could intervene in. They could only hide in this independent space and cheer for Xia Xingchen. Master. Xiaobei's eyes flashed. It was originally preparing to fly to the space to support Xia Xingchen, but it received a soul signal from Xia Xingchen, asking it to stay where it was and watch the battle. I can do it. Xia Xingchen's signal to Xiaobei was only 3 short words. Boom. The Zuanwu mecha held up a huge ice shield with both hands to resist Hailess's powerful attack. The black energy beam dissipated, and there were traces of broken ice shields, but they were not really broken. Blocked? What? Hailess was stunned, staring at Xia Xingchen, and asked suspiciously, it was blocked this time. Why? Soon, Hailess felt the strong energy fluctuations coming from Xia Xingchen. He raised his eyebrows, showed an expression of disbelief on his face, and exclaimed, how is it possible? Why is there a planetary level mental fluctuation coming from him? Isn't he a nebula level? Has he successfully promoted to the planetary level? How is this possible? How old is he? Although it is not as difficult to promote from a nebula level to a planetary level as it is for an S-level mecha master to achieve a legend, it is definitely not a simple matter. Take Hailess for example. He achieved a legend at a very young age, but it took a full 10 years to go from the nebula level to the planetary level. Moreover, Hailess made such progress only after joining the Ascendant Alliance and constantly using the Alliance meditation room. If there was no meditation room, Hailess even thought that he would never be able to reach the planetary level in his lifetime, let alone the stellar level. I was right. This boy has a high talent. I never looked down on him. I always regarded him as a big threat and wanted to eradicate him. Unfortunately, the huge pressure I gave him seemed to have stimulated his potential, allowing him to turn a disaster into a blessing and make rapid progress in his practice. But today is the day you die. Your legend will come to an end today. Everything ends here. Hailess felt regretful. Although he attached great importance to Xia Xingchen and had been trying every means to oppress him, unfortunately, he was not decisive enough. When Xia Xingchen just entered the Ascender Alliance and refused Hailess's solicitation, Hailess should have realized the threat of Xia Xingchen and should have killed Xia Xingchen on the Ascender spaceship at the risk of being punished by the Alliance. Time cannot be reversed. Once some opportunities are missed, they are missed forever. Hailess shook his head, knowing that there is no regret medicine in the world. Now there is still the last chance to kill Xia Xingchen. As long as Xia Xingchen is dead, everything is not too late. Whoosh. Hailess drove the Iron Blood mech and took the lead in attacking. Black space balls surged around the mech, which could be detonated at any time, releasing a strong space storm to attack the enemy. Xia Xingchen also condensed to crystal clones, plus the main body, driving 3 mechas at the same time. The 4 mechas fought fiercely together, and in a blink of an eye, they went from a dried up lake to a height of 10,000 meters. At Xia Xingchen's level, the mobility of the mech was fully utilized. When the light wings behind him moved, it was hundreds of kilometers. Ordinary planets are not suitable for mech divisions above the planetary level to fight. The battlefield is too small to be used. The attack power of the planetary level strong is too strong. If they use some domain power slightly, half of the planet will be smashed. One person and one machine have the power to crush the planet, so they are called planetary level. Only in the universe far away from the planet, or in the desolate dimensional world like the Lost World, which is empty and has nothing, can the planetary level strong fight without scruples. Hallis expanded his domain to form a square space and use the space domain to oppress Xia Xingchen. He used all his strength to make a quick decision. However, Hallis became more and more frightened as the battle went on. He had already used 80% of his strength, but Xia Xingchen was still able to resist and was completely unable to suppress him. 100%. Hallis took a light breath, and his eyes glowed with black light. A huge black space ball fell from the sky, like a meteorite from outer space, and hit Xia Xingchen. Chapter 1461 Dragon Teeth Joint Attack. Whoosh. The Iron Blood Mech held a huge trident, and the weapon emitted a terrifying black wave, stabbing towards Xia Xingchen. Swish. At the same time, Hallis raised his hands, and two space blades condensed, cutting through the space, and slashing towards Xia Xingchen. Hallis instantly used 3 moves, trying his best and attacking frantically. HMPH. Xia Xingchen's black eyes burned with a raging fighting spirit. In terms of mental strength alone, although Xia Xingchen was at the initial stage of the planetary level, he was not weaker than Hallis. The black tortoise mech held up an ice shield, emitting a chilly aura, constantly moving and changing positions, blocking all of Hallis' attacks. Clang, clang, clang. Countless spider web-like black cracks appeared in the space around the black tortoise mech, and it couldn't bear the pressure and shattered. Among the broken space fragments, you can see that the black tortoise mech is unscathed. However, it must be admitted that Hallis' attack is very terrifying, and the black tortoise mech has used all its strength to barely resist his attack. Boom. Finally, the ice shield cracked and shattered under Hallis' crazy attack. The crystal clone turned into a light spot and dissipated. The basalt mecha was also hit by a huge impact and flew backwards. The intensity of Hallis' attack exceeded the defense threshold of the basalt mecha. The basalt mecha's main body was not seriously damaged, but a very small part of the space energy was transmitted to Xia Xingchen's main body through the crystal clone, causing his body to tremble and spit blood on the bulletproof glass in front of the cockpit. Master, Hallis' strength is above yours. If you continue to fight, you will be in danger. Xiaobei looked anxious. Challenging a star-level powerhouse. It's really difficult. Ha ha ha. But the more difficult the battle, the more excited I am. Xia Xingchen raised his right hand, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with the back of his hand, and the fighting spirit in his eyes became even more scorching. Xiaobei, you just watch obediently on the side. But Xia Xingchen clasped his hands together, and the crystal clones and the Zuanwu mecha that had been blown apart were condensed. The Zuanwu mecha was filled with cold air, condensing into a thick layer of ice armor. In his hands, he condensed an ice shield again, which was thicker than the previous shield. You are really not my opponent. Hallis felt a little relieved. I almost got fooled by you. Hallis, have you had enough? It's my turn to attack this time. Try my strongest move. Xia Xingchen shouted, clenched his fists, and suddenly clashed them together. The crystal clones and the other 2 mechas also made the same move at the same time. Boom. The 3 mechas released 3 color energy beams, twisted into 3 color drills in the air, spinning wildly, and blasted towards Hallis. The drills bloomed with a heart-pounding and deadly brilliance, and the terrifying energy turned into a huge dragon, roaring loudly. The front of the drill was like the fangs in the mouth of a giant dragon, flashing a deadly light. This is the combined attack technique that Xia Xingchen learned after he was promoted to the planetary level. The 3 mechas released their strongest attacks at the same time, condensing into a drill and transforming into a huge dragon shadow. Xia Xingchen called this move Dragon Teeth Combined Attack. It was with this move that he defeated the tunnel worm Erach, who was also at the star level like Hallis. Boom. The 3-color drill, with unparalleled power, instantly pierced through the space shield that Hallis had arranged in front of him, and continued to bombard the Iron Blood mecha. Not good. Hallis was horrified, and had no time to react. The terrifying energy wave rushed in, and hit the cockpit. Half of the body of the Iron Blood mecha disappeared instantly. The cockpit was also half destroyed, and the left half of Hallis' body was also destroyed. We won. Nia and Amanda raised their hands high, their faces full of ecstasy. Even a strong man like Hellas, who was so severely injured, although he was not dead for the time being, could not hold on for a few minutes. Damn it. Hellas gritted his teeth, his eyes bloodshot, staring at Xia Xingchen, and yelled, "Damn the laws of the universe. They lowered my realm to the planetary level. I was actually humiliated by a small person like you. I don't accept it. I don't accept it. In this case, I will dedicate my life to the devil. I must kill you." Seeing that the Iron Blood mecha was about to fall from the sky, Hellas's life was also coming to an end. A strange change suddenly occurred. Many great tentacles suddenly emerged from Hellas' ears, constantly spreading and stretching, wrapping his wounds, and after stopping the bleeding, they condensed into half a grey body. The grey tentacles did not stop, but continued to extend, condensing the place where the Iron Blood mecha was destroyed. Xia Xingchen had seen this scene on Snake before. Hellas was indeed parasitized by the Thousand Brains worm. Xia Xingchen suddenly remembered that when Hellas came out of the independent space, his face was ugly, and he kept yawning. Hellas's symptoms were the same as George's. He had been parasitized by the Thousand Brain worm, and his mind was constantly echoing with terrifying and inexplicable whispers. Hellas didn't dare to sleep. Once his brain was in a relaxed state, the Thousand Brain worm larvae hidden in his cranial cavity would wake up and devour his brain. The Thousand Brain worm on Guan Yu was also deliberately transmitted to him by Hellas. However, Hellas was a star-level strongman with strong mental power. With his super strength, he was able to prevent the Thousand Brain worm from waking up. However, Hellas was defeated by Xia Xingchen. In despair, he decided to give up his dignity as a human being and give his body to the Thousand Brain worm. He would kill Xia Xingchen at any cost. Xia Xingchen, my body is full of endless power. This feeling is really wonderful. Hellas laughed wildly, and at the same time, a grey tentacle appeared at the center of his eyebrows, and an eyeball grew at the end of the tentacle, also staring at Xia Xingchen. Space cage. Hellas suddenly shouted loudly. But a black space cage appeared beside Xia Xingchen, trapping him in it. This terrifying mental power. Xia Xingchen was suddenly trapped, and his heart was shocked. He had no chance to react at all, and the space cage had already condensed and trapped him in it. The ability that Hellas had just displayed was too fast, and had surpassed the star level, and reached the realm of quasi-celestial beings. All this was caused by the Thousand Brain worm. The Thousand Brain worm parasitized in Hellas's brain, continuously supplying mental power, and Hellas's brain had not been completely devoured. This peculiar state made Hellas's strength soar, directly surpassing the star level, and becoming a quasi-celestial being. A real monster. Die. Hellas shouted. Countless grey tentacles appeared on his body, and on the mecha, intertwined together, and entangled towards Xia Xingchen. Xia Xingchen faced the huge tentacles that were entangled, and his body was trapped in the space cage, unable to move. The speed of the tentacles was amazing, and they were in front of him in an instant. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 1462 Absolute Defense. Xia Xingchen was facing the huge grey tentacles that were wrapped around him. His body was imprisoned by the power of space, and he could not dodge. He could only roar, "Xia, obey. Here it comes." In the depths of her soul, the star-devouring worm queen Xia obey sensed Xia Xingchen calling her name, and knew that it was finally time for her to take action. Her azure eyes were filled with ecstasy. Boom. Xia obey's body expanded rapidly, throwing away the weak body of a human girl, and transformed into the fighting state of the star-devouring worm queen. She broke through the space, and came to Xia Xingchen's side. Xia obey's huge insect body was 1,000 meters long, silver white, with a metallic texture, and breathtakingly beautiful. The grey tentacles wrapped around Xia Xingchen, and thousands of silver threads burst out from Xia obey's body, like starlight, intercepting the tentacles' attacks in midair. Boom. 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 Tentacles were constantly penetrated by the silver starlight threads, exploding in the air, and blooming into blood-colored fireworks. Xiaobei's body was also constantly whipped by the tentacles, and the outer silver metal carapace was broken, revealing the soft body underneath. For a while, the fierce battle between Xiaobei and the mutant Halus fell into a stalemate, and neither side could win in a short time. "Let's fight." Xia Xingchen gritted his teeth and poured all his mental power into the two crystal clones. The engines of the three holy beast mechas were all turned on at full power, and their performance was pushed to the peak. There was no room for Xia Xingchen to intervene in the battle between Xiaobei and the mutant Halus, two quasi-celestial beings. Compared with the quasi-celestial beings, Xia Xingchen's strength was too small and insignificant. However, the current situation is very special. Xiaobei and the mutant Halus are evenly matched and fell into a delicate balance. Although Xia Xingchen's strength is weak, if he joins at this moment, it will be the last straw that breaks the camel's back. Kill. Dragon Fang joint attack. Xia Xingchen shouted angrily, mobilizing all his remaining mental power and launching his strongest attack again. The three-color spiral drill condensed in the air, and a towering dragon shadow emerged. The phantom of the dragon claw stabbed towards Halus fiercely. Not good. Halus had already used all his strength to deal with Xiaobei, and had no time to dodge Xia Xingchen's move. Boom. The iron blood mecha was shattered again, and the grey tentacles wrapped around it exploded and turned into a puff of blood. Halus's broken body also had bloodlines one after another, and it could collapse at any time. Phase shift. Avalon. Seeing that Halus was about to die, a strong black light column suddenly burst out from his body, and his figure flashed and disappeared. A few seconds later, Halus' figure was shrouded in a layer of black light, looking very blurry, and appeared in the sky. "Kill you." Xiaobei hated Halus to the bone, roared, and sprayed out millions of dazzling starlight threads, bombarding Halus. These starlight threads were all made of pure energy, and the attack power was terrifying. However, the starlight threads passed directly through Halus's body, as if he was an illusion, and did not hit him at all. What was going on? Xia Xingchen and Xiaobei were both stunned. Could it be that Halus' figure in the air was an illusion? However, even if the illusion could deceive Xia Xingchen, it could not deceive Xiaobei's perception. You know, the perception of the star-devouring queen is 10,000 times that of humans. Ha ha ha. In the dark light, Halus's body was broken, and the grey tentacles on his body kept wriggling, repairing his damaged body. The wounds healed rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. He laughed wildly, and looked at Xia Xingchen with sarcasm. "Xia Xingchen, this star-devouring queen has really fallen into your hands. It originally belonged to me. You despicable thief. You stole my queen, and used it against me. This is extremely shameless." Xia Xingchen did not respond, because he knew that Halus could not spit out ivory from a dog's mouth. He was thinking about what method Halus used to avoid Xiaobei's attack. "You are shameless. Halus. I want to avenge Queen Vera." Xiaobei was extremely angry, and his huge insect body trembled slightly, and he yelled at Halus. "Revenge? You but have feelings too?" In a blink of an eye, Halus's damaged body had been repaired for the most part. He looked at Xia Xingchen and sneered. "Unfortunately, you can't break through my ultimate space domain, Avalon. This is a space that belongs only to me. Immune to any attack. You can only watch my injuries heal. Then, bear my wrath. The ultimate space domain Avalon. Immune to any attack." Xia Xingchen was stunned for a moment, his eyes full of astonishment. Halus used his space ability to open up an independent space and hide in it. No matter how powerful the attacks Xia Xingchen and Xiaobei released in this space were, they could not hurt Halus's body. With the help of the Thousand Brains worm, Halus's injuries will recover, and he will come back. However, after the fierce battle just now, Xia Xingchen's mental power has been almost exhausted, and Xiaobei's stored energy has also been consumed by more than half. The mental power of the Thousand Brains worm is almost endless, as vast as the starry sky. What to do? If Halus's injury is allowed to recover, Xia Xingchen and Xiaobei will definitely lose. "Master, the situation is not good. Let's retreat first." Xiaobei's face changed slightly. It has realized the huge crisis. It wants to kill Halus. However, the Zerg's inherent sense of danger makes it put aside the hatred in its heart and persuade Xia Xingchen to evacuate. Space. Xia Xingchen frowned slightly and thought in his heart. Halis's Avalon is somewhat similar to Xia Xingchen's portable space. However, they are fundamentally different. Xia Xingchen's portable space is a separate space opened up with the power of the source of faith and mental power. Its function is no different from that of a space key. It is impossible for his body to enter the portable space, let alone use the portable space to resist attacks. Halis is the leading space power user among humans. The space he opened up with his superpowers can not only hide, but also constantly change the spatial orientation to avoid high energy attacks, to prevent the space wall from being shattered. Absolute defense. Avalon. Superior to any form of defense known to humans. No attack can break through it, unless break it from the spatial level. Xia Xingchen quickly came to a conclusion. To break through the absolute defense Avalon, it is impossible to simply increase the energy output. Unless you also use the spatial power, there is a way to break through Avalon. Erichi. Xia Xingchen immediately thought of the tunnel worm Erichi and contacted Erichi through mental fluctuations. Can you break through this spatial defense? Chapter 1463 Winner. Of course. Erichi answered very straightforwardly, with contempt in his voice, for the tunnel worms. Humans' understanding of space is not worth mentioning. Great. Xia Xingchen was delighted. Please help me break this space wall. After completion, I will fulfill my promise and give you freedom. Human. I long for freedom and admire your strength and wisdom. However, I have spent almost all my mental energy to maintain the stability of this space tunnel. I can't help you now. Erichi replied. Xia Xingchen's heart sank suddenly. The only hope was shattered. Even Erichi couldn't break through Halis's absolute defense. Could it be that now he could only watch Halis's injuries recover and then kill himself? Or listen to Xiaobei's advice and escape in embarrassment? The cost of escape is too high. What's more, if Halis doesn't die, the trial of the lost world will never end. Xia Xingchen knew very well that now was the only chance to kill Halis. Is there no other choice but to give up? Xia Xingchen looked up, staring at Halis, who was hiding in the black light with a grim smile on his face. He could feel the mental fluctuations on his body becoming stronger and stronger. Even Xiaobei couldn't stop trembling in front of Halis. Xia Xingchen's legs became weak, and he almost knelt down in front of him. Xia Xingchen had a feeling that Halis was about to cross the threshold of a quasi-celestial being and evolve into a real celestial being. Whoosh. At this moment of despair, a mecha suddenly flew out from the ground, like a reverse shooting meteor, and crashed into the Avalon in the air. The cockpit of this mecha was covered with bloated grey tentacles. In the center of the tentacles, Guan Yu's head could barely be seen. His eyes were now open, burning with a fierce flame of hatred, and he shouted at Halis, "Halis, I will die with you." It was Guan Yu who rushed towards Halis. Guan Yu was parasitized by the thousand brain worm, and his brain was almost devoured. It was impossible for him to wake up. However, the strong hatred for Halis made a miracle happen. At this critical moment, Guan Yu woke up briefly and figured out the situation. With great anger, he rushed towards Avalon. "Guan Yu, it's you. You little man. How dare you disobey me?" Halis looked down on Guan Yu extremely. The reason why he brought Guan Yu with him was because he saw Guan Yu's space ability. In Halis's heart, Guan Yu was good for nothing except his ability, especially his personality. Guan Yu had always been servile to Halis, which made Halis despise him even more. However, Halis never expected that at the last moment, Guan Yu, whom he had always despised, would stand up and resist him. Boom. Guan Yu drove the mecha towards the unbreakable space wall, and the mecha exploded and turned into a small black hole. Crack, crack, crack. Guan Yu is also a space ability user. He burned his life to shatter the absolute defense Avalon that Xia Xingchen could not break. Xiaobei. Xia Xingchen's eyes lit up and he shouted, "Got it." Xiaobei's huge insect body stood up, and at the moment when Avalon was broken, the huge mouth opened and swallowed Halis and the mecha in one gulp. No. Halis let out a heart-wrenching wail, and his eyes went black, and he was swallowed into the insect's belly. The gastric juice of the star-eating insect can corrode even the hardest metal in the universe. Halis and the thousand brains in his body disappeared in an instant. After swallowing Halis, Xiaobei's body shrank rapidly and turned into a naked beautiful girl, falling to the ground and falling asleep. In this fierce battle, Xiaobei exhausted all his stored energy and needed to sleep temporarily. It's finally over. Xia Xingchen breathed a sigh of relief, and the whole person slumped in the driver's seat. Xingchen. A few minutes later, Xia drove the mecha and flew over with Amanda. Seeing the devastated battlefield, both of them couldn't help but smack their lips. Congratulations. Finally killed Hellas, Xia said with a smile. Too strong. It refreshed my understanding of the planetary level. It can actually beat the stellar level. Amanda was shocked. Hallis's strength was suppressed to the planetary level by the law of space, so I had a chance to take advantage of it. Otherwise, I would never have been able to beat him. Xia Xingchen said modestly. Except for the three of us. All other contestants died. It was so tragic. Xia sighed. It's a loss for mankind. Xia Xingchen looked regretful. 24 planetary level powerhouses died in vain. What a pity. Planetary level powerhouses are not cabbages that can be found everywhere. If it weren't for the Promoter Alliance, Xia Xingchen felt that he would never see so many planetary level powerhouses in his life. If so many powerhouses could fight against the celestial beings together, or join the army to quell the civil war, they would definitely play a huge role and contribute to the future of mankind. Unfortunately, they all died. Died in the hands of desire. And died under a huge conspiracy. The outline of this conspiracy gradually became clear in Xia Xingchen's mind. Hellas. Just a small chess piece. A poor man controlled by ambition and desire. The real hateful one is a mastermind behind the scenes. Xia Xingchen clenched his fists tightly and suddenly looked up at the sky. But 3 beams of light suddenly shone down, covering Xia Xingchen, Xia, and Amanda. They slowly rose in the beams of light and heard an old voice in their ears. Congratulations to the 3 of you for being the last survivors. You have passed the selection of awakeners and become awakeners. Welcome back to the Ascender spaceship. It's the voice of the fallen called Dory. We won. We finally won. Xia and Amanda were overjoyed and shouted excitedly. Xia Xingchen, on the other hand, had a calm face and a hint of coldness appeared in his eyes. Xia Xingchen. What should I do? The tunnel worm Erichi poked his head out of the space, watching Xia Xingchen slowly fly into the air with the beam of light, and asked. I will fulfill my promise, and give you freedom. Xia Xingchen said loudly. Thank you. Erichi breathed a sigh of relief, thanked him quickly, retracted his body, dug a wormhole again, and returned to the asteroid belt to lie dormant. Swish. Xia Xingchen, Xia, and Amanda rose below the clouds, and with a flash of light, a space gate appeared. The 3 were pulled by a huge force and sucked into the gate. The moment Xia Xingchen was sucked into the space gate, he saw the border of the lost world. In addition to the raging space storm, there was a dark abyss, and countless huge eyes were staring at him coldly. Chapter 1464 The Truth Revealed. But there was a sharp ringing in the ears, and the scenery in front of him changed and distorted. Xia Xingchen shook his head vigorously, trying to keep himself awake, and opened his eyes again. Xia Xingchen found that he was in a dark space. Xia Xingchen had been here before, and it was the Elder's Hall on the top of the Ascendant spaceship. The figures of Xia and Amanda also slowly emerged, standing on both sides of Xia Xingchen. Due to the super time and space jump, they have not yet fully awakened from the dizziness. Xia even lay on the ground, constantly retching. A beam of white light shone down from the sky. The fallen one called Dory, wearing a white robe, sat on a high chair, looking down at Xia Xingchen and the other 2. His eyes fell on Xia Xingchen, and nodded with satisfaction. When his eyes swept over Xia, he couldn't help but frown slightly, as if he was a little disgusted. Congratulations to the 3 of you. You have successfully passed the trial. Become a distinguished awakener. Dora's voice sounded. Next, it's the final trial. Choose one of you 3 to become an ascendant. There is still a final trial? Amanda couldn't help but shout. That's right. The final trial. The difficulty of the final trial is more difficult than the previous awakener trial. Among the 3 of you, only one can pass it successfully. And becoming an ascender means joining the highest leadership of the alliance. Power, status, wealth, everything you desire, you will get. Dora's eyes flashed with the same brilliance, and his words were full of bewitching flavor. Can you give up? Amanda shook her head. Although your promise is very tempting, But I will not participate in this damn trial again. Never. Kaldori was silent, looking at Amanda in surprise, as if he didn't expect that she would give up as soon as she opened her mouth. Woman. Of course you can give up. But, do you really want to give up this unique opportunity? Kaldori whispered. That's right. Amanda looked back at Xia Xingchen and whispered, among the 3 people, only one passed the trial. It means that I want to fight Xia Xingchen, this monster. Isn't this courting death? Amanda also has desires and ambitions. She also longs to become an ascender. However, Amanda is a smart woman. She knows very well how big the gap is between her and Xia Xingchen. If she is confused by desire, her fate will be the same as Halsey. Woman. Kaldori stared at Amanda, veins throbbing faintly on his forehead. After a few seconds, he took a deep breath to calm himself down, and said disdainfully, you are indeed a woman. Without enough ambition, you will never become a strong one. You have lost the qualification to be promoted. Then, Kaldori's eyes swept over Xia Xingchen and Nia, and said with a smile, you are lucky. An awakened one has given up his qualifications. Between the 2 of you, an promoted one will be born. That. Nia finally straightened up, with gastric juice still remaining at the corners of his mouth, looking embarrassed. That. I'm sorry, I also give up. You. Kaldori glared at Nia fiercely and said angrily, asshole. You are a man. Do you have any dignity as a man? Dignity. Can dignity be eaten? Nia shrugged. Anyway, I want to give up. What a bullshit final trial. I have no interest in it at all. Useless. 2 useless people. I really don't know how you 2 survived the cruel awakened trial. Kaldori's white beard was trembling with anger. 2 of the 3 awakened ones gave up in a blink of an eye, leaving only the last one. Kaldori had lived for hundreds of years, but this was the first time he had encountered such a thing. It's really a ghost. Kaldori muttered in a low voice. Huh. Looking at you 2 losers, it's really annoying. Kaldori waved his hand suddenly, and the figures of Nia and Amanda disappeared from the darkness, leaving only Xia Xingchen. Xia Xingchen. Although both of them gave up. But it doesn't mean that you can directly become an ascended person from an awakened one without going through any tests. Kaldori looked at Xia Xingchen and said coldly, no need to bother. Xia Xingchen smiled faintly. Besides, I have no interest in any promoted person. Since both of them have given up, I'll give up too. What? You give up your qualification too? Kaldori's pupils suddenly shrank to the size of a needle tip, and he said angrily, are you awake? Do you know what you are talking about? Xia Xingchen looked up at the high and mighty Kaldori, but his eyes were full of contempt. Old thing. I have seen through your true face. What a bullshit promoted person. It's just a shell of yours. A puppet parasitized by you. Am I right? You old bug. Silence. Deathly silence. Kaldori was completely stunned. Behind him, there were 14 human-shaped black shadows, the 14 elders of the Elders Council. They were also completely stunned. Not just stunned. They couldn't help but tremble with fear, and their souls were throbbing. Kaldori opened his mouth wide, looked at Xia Xingchen in astonishment, and did not refute. After a long time, Elder Kao Kang was the first to react. He emerged from the darkness and glared at Xia Xingchen. Boy, what's wrong with you? What nonsense are you talking about? I said he didn't say you. You're just like him. You're also a bug. Xia Xingchen glared at Kao Kang and said coldly, you. Kao Kang's chest kept rising and falling, and he couldn't speak for a while. You know everything. Kaldori's emotions had stabilized. He waved his hand and asked Kao Kang to sit down. He looked at Xia Xingchen with even more interest in his eyes. Tell me. Let me see how crazy you are. You guys. Xia Xingchen pointed his finger at the faces of the elders one by one, and finally landed on Kaldori's face. The 15 of you are all aliens in human skin. If I'm not mistaken, you are all 1,000 brains. The same kind as the 1,000 brains in the Lost World. Oh. What do you mean? The top leaders of the entire alliance are 1,000 brains? The Promoter Alliance has a profound foundation, and is full of masters. How could it be easily infiltrated by aliens? Kaldori smiled faintly. It's not infiltration. From the very beginning, from the day the Ascender Alliance was born, the top leaders have been aliens. It was not humans who founded the Ascender Alliance. It was aliens like you. Xia Xingchen pointed at Caldori. I have long suspected that even with the use of freezing technology, human lifespan cannot be so long. You are indeed one of the founders of the Alliance. But you were not a human from the beginning. Caldori's face finally changed. Chapter 1465. Alien. The Columbus is the largest generation spaceship built by the Earth Alliance. The 100,000 crew members on board are determined to fly to the other side of the starry sky. The spaceship has complete survival facilities and an independent ecosystem. The 100,000 crew members have been selected through layers of selection, including elites from all walks of life. Their genes are also quite perfect, absolutely no close relatives, and even genetic screening has been carried out to ensure that there are no genetic factors that degrade the ethnic group. Dr. Stephen, who built the Columbus, even made a bold statement: even if the Earth is destroyed and mankind perishes, the Columbus will become the last fire of mankind. However, Dr. Stephen did not expect that the Columbus would sail into the empty infinite star abyss. This starfield is extremely desolate, and even a ray of light is a luxury. The Columbus uses the most advanced life cycle system of the Earth Federation at that time, which can ensure that the spaceship will not run out of fresh water, food, and energy within 1,000 years. However, the boundless dark starry sky puts tremendous pressure on the crew and unprecedented despair. The Columbus has entered the infinite star abyss for 150 years. The 32nd Captain Horton led the last 3,000 crew members to commit suicide. Since then, the Columbus has become a ghost ship wandering in the boundless abyss of stars. When the meteorite hit the Columbus, there was no living person on the spacecraft. On the faces of the shriveled corpses scattered on the floor, one can vaguely see their despair before they died. Xia Xingchen's perspective kept changing, following a life in the meteorite, jumping out of the meteorite, and entering the spacecraft. This is an intelligent creature different from humans. It was disappointed to find that the Columbus was a dead ship. It began to search constantly in the spacecraft, learning knowledge related to humans from the computer, and figuring out the structural principles of the spacecraft. It was lucky. It found dozens of frozen humans in the freezing chamber of the Columbus. Most of these humans suffered from terminal illnesses or committed unforgivable crimes. Therefore, they were frozen and then forgotten. Captain Horton, who led the last crew members into madness and the endless darkness, had long been confused in his brain and had forgotten the existence of these frozen people. After it found these human bodies, it was overjoyed because during its long wandering in the starry sky, it had consumed too much of its vitality. Although it has an extremely long life, it still needs to parasitize other organisms to maintain its cell activity. It thaws the human bodies in the freezer and parasitizes in the human body to maintain its own life. Humans are not a strong creature, especially the humans on Earth. Due to the special location of the Earth and the thin spiritual energy, only a very small number of humans on Earth have the ability to awaken their spiritual power, and they are all marginalized and regarded as aliens. Most of these people hate their abilities, hide in the crowd, and eventually become indistinguishable from the crowd. It is not satisfied with the human body. The body is weak and has no spiritual power. Moreover, most of the frozen humans have fatal physical diseases. With its ability, it can easily cure the fatal diseases in the parasites. However, it does not think that it should waste precious energy on these weak bodies. When a host body dies, it immediately thaws a new body. It occasionally has good luck. Not all of the frozen humans are sick. There are also some prisoners. Relatively speaking, most of them are young, strong, and full of vitality. A prisoner's body can allow it to parasitize for 150 years. A patient's body depends on luck, at most 10 years, at least only a few years. It keeps changing its body and survives in the dark abyss of stars. It doesn't know how much time has passed, but it must not be longer than the time it wandered in the starry sky. When all the frozen humans were about to be consumed, things finally took a turn for the better. A scientific research ship of the Galactic Empire came to explore the boundless abyss of stars and discovered this generational spaceship that had been silent for who knows how many years. The scientific research personnel were surprised to find that there were still living humans on the generational spaceship. It was it. It called itself Caldori. Caldori the Fallen. Although it was in an illusion, Xia Xingchen still couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. The chill that surged from the depths of his soul permeated his whole body, making him unable to stop trembling. Xia Xingchen had also guessed the identity of Kaldori and thought he must be an alien. However, Xia Xingchen did not expect that Kaldori's existence was so long. As the only survivor, Kaldori followed the research ship back to the Galactic Empire. He showed wisdom that shocked mankind. In a very short period of time, he obtained nearly 100 doctoral degrees and put forward many conjectures and theories that shocked the scientific community. Kaldori was a man of the times and a child of destiny. Kaldori's ill-fated and tortuous experience shrouded him in a layer of mystery, and he was the favorite subject of writers. At that time, there were tens of thousands of biographies about Kaldori. There were also countless songs, movies, novels, and dramas. Countless achievements and halos made Kaldori a living person. No one could have imagined that the scholar, poet, and scientist he admired was actually an alien. Kaldori got everything he wanted in human society. He used his wealth to establish the mysterious Ascender Alliance, quietly returned to the infinite star abyss, found the Columbus generation spaceship again, and renamed it Ascender. Countless human geniuses came here to join the Ascender Alliance. The top mecha masters, scientists, and craftsmen all regarded it as the greatest honor to join the Ascender Alliance. The strength of the alliance grew rapidly and became a military force that could not be underestimated. At the same time, the alliance hid in the infinite star abyss and rejected all political groups' solicitation. Qin Guanyu, the emperor of the Galactic Empire at that time, was a student of Kaldori. He was instructed by Kaldori to block and destroy all information related to the Ascender Alliance. The Ascender Alliance was forever trapped in darkness and unknown to the common people. Only a small number of noble families and the top mecha masters had heard of the legend of Kaldori and the Ascender Alliance. The purpose of Kaldori returning to the infinite star abyss was actually very simple. It needed food. A lot of food. Kaldori needed to ingest a key substance to keep its life going. This substance did not exist in the Milky Way and could only be found on the Zerg in the infinite star abyss. Therefore, most of the tasks of the Ascender Alliance were hunting tasks. Whether it's insect crystals or Zerg corpses, they can be exchanged for a large number of points in the alliance. These are the food that Kaldori needs most. Chapter 1466. Promoted? Parasite. The most fundamental purpose of Kaldori becoming the Ascendant Alliance was, first, to let the human strongmen hunt for him and get food. Second, Kaldori found that humans were a race with great potential in his contact with humans. It needed a strong human body as a host. So, Kaldori built a meditation room. Swish. The scene changed. A dark and enclosed space was the meditation room. The door opened, and a human strongman entered the meditation room with a happy face, sat down in the center, and entered a meditative state with his legs crossed. This human strongman did not know that behind the wall of the meditation room, there were countless huge tentacles, and at the top of each tentacle, there was a huge eyeball, and countless eyes were staring at him coldly. Soon, the human strongman entered a meditative state, and under the influence of Kaldori, he entered the illusion. He broke through one difficult illusion after another, thinking that he could get power in this way. He did not know that these illusions were just a potential evaluation system. The more illusions he went through, the stronger his potential was, which was completely different from being able to get power. After the illusion ended, the human warrior fell into a coma. Countless grey tentacles spread out and entangled him, and small tentacles drilled into the brain from the ears. This is not parasitism. Instead, Kaldori transfers part of his mental power to humans through the tentacles according to the potential of the strong. This is the truth of the meditation room. The truth of darkness. Xia Xingchen felt a chill. He had also entered the meditation room and was drilled into his brain by these disgusting tentacles. If he had not been in the illusion, Xia Xingchen would definitely vomit. The strong men in the alliance, one by one, worked hard to hunt, exchange 4 points, and fight for their scalps to enter the meditation room. Xia Xingchen now thinks that it is not only ridiculous, but also pathetic. After so many years, how many talented and intelligent geniuses have appeared among humans? However, these geniuses were played around by Kaldori, an alien. In the final analysis, it is not Kaldori who plays with humans, but the desires of humans themselves. Due to the special effects of the meditation room, it can obviously and quickly improve mental strength, which has attracted countless human geniuses. Human star level powerhouses have also sprung up like mushrooms after rain. Kaldori understands humans, envies their huge potential, and is also deeply afraid of them. So, Kaldori came up with an evil way. In the name of selecting awakened people, he used power and wealth as bait to hold a selection competition, allowing human powerhouses to kill each other in the competition. And the final winner has the opportunity to become an ascender and become the leader of the alliance. In the past few hundred years, in addition to Kaldori, there are 6 human powerhouses who have become ascenders. But in fact, the leader of the alliance is only Kaldori. These talented human powerhouses became ascenders in flowers and applause, thinking that what awaits them is power over the world and wealth that rivals a country. However, they are all in the beautiful dream woven by desire, parasitized by Kaldori, and become one walking corpse after another. This time, the selection of awakeners was hosted by Kaldori himself, and was held in the broken and desolate dimension of the lost world. The reason is that Kaldori's life is almost coming to an end, and he needs to find a new body. This body must have great potential, strong mental strength, and a strong physique. It must be young to be more energetic. Kaldori took a fancy to Xia Xingchen. It can be said that the trial of the lost world is tailor-made for Xia Xingchen, and the huge millipede monster hiding in the depths of the lost world is Kaldori's body. Kaldori cut off the signal and was personally responsible for screening out the contestants who did not meet the conditions. Too weak or too strong. That's right. Kaldori will not be moved by weak contestants. Strong contestants, such as Hellas, Kaldori will also screen them out. Even Kaldori is not 100% sure that he can successfully parasitize a star-level powerhouse like Hellas. Moreover, Hellas is too old and his life is coming to an end. It turns out that Kaldori had a good eye. As he expected, Xia Xingchen became one of the 3 final winners. But, Xia Xingchen suddenly opened his eyes and found himself leaving the illusion. Kaldori's old and weak human body stood in front of him, with a strange smile on his face, and his tongue kept licking the corners of his mouth, as if he saw a delicious meal. Xia Xingchen, now that you know the truth, you should thank me for my generosity, Kaldori said with a smile. You damn worm. Xia Xingchen gritted his teeth, stared at Kaldori, and said viciously. Xia Xingchen had guessed some of the truth about the alliance. However, Kaldori did not hold back, and showed all the truth to Xia Xingchen. This was not generosity at all. It was arrogance. Kaldori believed that with Xia Xingchen's strength, it would be impossible for him to cause any harm. Whatever you say, what you just said, just take it as your last words. Kaldori shrugged his shoulders. Suddenly, his white robe exploded, revealing his old and decayed body. His body had long been broken into pieces, supported by a bunch of grey tentacles. Whoosh! The grey tentacles suddenly spread out, forming a large net that covered the sky and the earth, covering Xia Xingchen. At the same time, Kaldori's body burst out with amazing mental pressure. Xia Xingchen found that he could not move. This was Xia Xingchen's most proficient ability, telekinesis. The terrifying mental power strangled Xia Xingchen's whole body, completely controlling his actions, and he could not even move a finger. I don't think you can do any harm to me. But, you might hurt yourself. I know you have the courage to do it, but your body is mine. You have no right to hurt. Kaldori had a confident smile on his face. You monster. Xia Xingchen cursed incoherently, and his lips and tongue were stiff and unable to move. Whoosh! From Kaldori's head, a small tentacle flew out, and drilled into Xia Xingchen's head through his ear. You are mine. This tentacle is the source of Kaldori's life, and it shouted excitedly in Xia Xingchen's brain. It could sense the powerful force in Xia Xingchen's brain. It's really an excellent body. It's stronger than any body I've ever seen before. Full of potential. Kaldori exclaimed. Kaldori. Xia Xingchen used consciousness to communicate with it in his mind. Beg for mercy? No use. I will devour your brain soon. You are destined to be my puppet. Kaldori sneered. I have a secret to tell you. Xia Xingchen continued. What secret? Kaldori asked curiously. I have guessed your identity a long time ago. I know you are the mastermind behind this and want to parasitize humans. Xia Xingchen said with a smile. Then why did you let me parasitize you? You should have escaped. Kaldori was stunned and his face changed drastically. Of course it's to destroy you. Chapter 1467 First come first arrival. Xia Xingchen. You want to destroy me? I have existed for countless years, destroyed countless races, and flattened countless planets. This is the first time I have heard such a ridiculous thing. After being shocked, Kaldori laughed wildly. The vast starry sky, deadly rays, and even black holes cannot destroy me. What right do you have to destroy me? You are just a small human. Kaldori had already hidden in Xia Xingchen's brain. Low bites slowly came out of its mouth, turning into a nightmare-like whisper, which made Xia Xingchen feel sore all over, and his eyelids seemed to be filled with lead, and he was very sleepy. Xia Xingchen's consciousness gradually blurred with the endless whispers in his brain, and finally his consciousness completely sank and fell into endless darkness. It is going to start parasitizing and swallowing my brain. Xia Xingchen knew that something was wrong. He had seen the 1,000 brain worm parasitizing the human body. First, the larvae enter the human body with the beam of light, lie dormant in the cranial cavity of the brain, whisper constantly in the brain, and release paralyzing hormones, which blur the consciousness of the person and make him fall into sleep. The next step is to devour the brain, replace it, and survive as the host. These so-called 1,000 brain worms are actually the clones of Kaldori. Even as strong as Hellas, he was eventually successfully parasitized by the 1,000 brain worms. Kaldori's mental power is too terrifying, and even the star-level strongman cannot resist it. For hundreds of years, almost no one has been able to escape the parasitism of Kaldori. There is only one exception. Amanda. Amanda's strength is not strong. However, she has a special self-healing ability. Amanda was once parasitized by the 1,000 brain worm and heard whispers, but she only had a high fever and slept for one night and recovered as usual the next day. Amanda herself is a medical expert. According to her speculation, it is probably because her own defense system is stronger than that of ordinary people, and she has a strong rejection function to kill the 1,000 brain worms parasitic in her body. Xia Xingchen took the X-Life potion developed by Amanda and inherited some of her self-healing abilities. Therefore, Xia Xingchen took great risks and set up a trap with his own body as bait to lure Kaldori in and kill him using the human body's defense system. This plan is not safe and has great risks. After all, the 1,000 brain worm killed by Amanda is just Kaldori's clone, and the self-healing ability that Xia Xingchen obtained is only a part of Amanda's ability. Relying on the self-healing ability and the human body's defense system, whether Kaldori can be killed, after calculation by Xia Xingchen, there is less than 30% chance. However, this is the only chance to kill Kaldori. But, Xia Xingchen fell into the endless darkness and had a strange dream. In the dream, he was a great general, leading thousands of troops, standing on the city wall, and saw countless monsters rushing over in the distance. The monsters were extremely powerful and endless. They rushed into the army in an instant and trampled the soldiers into meat paste. The combat effectiveness of these soldiers was very weak. 4 or 5 soldiers could join forces to kill a monster. The monster quickly slaughtered all the soldiers, and its huge body kept ramming the city wall. Just as the city wall was about to be destroyed, a miracle happened. A crystal pyramid emitting white light rose slowly from the city. The white light spread, and the soldiers who were trampled into meat mud stood up again and re-entered the battlefield to fight. The soldiers were killed again, and their bodies were bathed in white light. Not long after, they stood up again, and they were all immortal. Facing this undead army, the monster group could not attack for a long time, and their strength was gradually weakened. After a long battle, the undead army finally gained the upper hand, broke through the monster's lair, and killed a dragon inside. The warriors bathed in dragon blood and returned triumphantly. A bone-piercing pain came from the brain, waking Xia Xingchen from his slumber. It hurts. Xia Xingchen sat up and covered his head with both hands. He felt a splitting headache. Not only his brain, but his whole body felt soft and limp, as if he had a serious illness. His eyelids were extremely heavy, and he tried his best to open them a crack. It was unknown how long it took for the pain in his brain to gradually subside. Xia Xingchen recalled everything that happened in the dream and shuddered. Omniscience domain. Xia Xingchen felt cold all over and quickly expanded the domain to explore his body. There is no foreign body in the brain. Xia Xingchen was surprised to find that there was no parasite in his body. Kaldora's parasitism failed. Xia Xingchen was pleasantly surprised and found Kaldora's white robe not far ahead. There was also a pool of foul-smelling pus on the ground, which exuded the smell of decay and death. It should be the remains of Kaldora. I won. I killed Kaldora. Xia Xingchen recalled the dream carefully, and the image in the dream gradually became clearer. Those endless and powerful monsters were Kaldora. The general was the source of Xia Xingchen's life. The walls and the undead soldiers are his own defense system. Although Kaldora is powerful, the defense system relies on self-healing ability, constantly resurrects, and finally defeats him. Not only self-healing ability, there is also the source of faith. It helped me again at the critical moment of life and death. Xia Xingchen's heart trembled, and he stretched out his right hand, and the small crystal pyramid slowly rotated in his palm. Self-healing ability is a superpower. To use superpowers, you need to consume mental power. The war between the undead army and the monster group is actually a competition of mental power. Xia Xingchen's mental power is naturally not as good as Kaldora. At the critical moment, the source of faith appeared and provided Xia Xingchen with a lot of mental power, allowing him to turn defeat into victory and defeat Kaldora. I almost forgot. I have been parasitized by the source of faith for a long time. Kaldora, you want to parasitize me? You have to follow the first come first served. Xia Xingchen couldn't help shaking his head and smiling bitterly. Xia Xingchen once speculated that the source of faith is also a special parasite. Now it seems that his speculation is 9 out of 10 correct. Kaldora's parasitism caused the source of faith to attack. With the help of the defense system and self-healing ability, Kaldora was killed. Kaldora the Fallen. A powerful alien that has been wandering in the starry sky for endless years. An existence that once played with the entire human race. Died just like that. Buzz buzz buzz. The source of faith flickered with light. Xia Xingchen discovered that the spiritual power contained in the source of faith was even more powerful. Through the transparent crystal wall, Xia Xingchen found that there seemed to be an octopus-like worm wriggling inside the pyramid. Its body was firmly locked by the chains condensed by the light. No matter how it struggled, it could not break free. Through the chains, the spiritual power of the octopus was continuously absorbed into the source of faith. The octopus worm became weaker and weaker, and its body became smaller and smaller. The light of the source of faith became brighter and brighter. This octopus worm is the remaining spiritual body of Kaldora. Its consciousness was wiped out. Its body also disintegrated. But its spiritual body was too powerful and survived, imprisoned by the source of faith. The source of faith keeps squeezing it and extracting its spiritual power. Xia Xingchen was stunned when he saw this scene. The source of faith actually has such an effect. Chapter 1468 The Source of Faith, Awakening. Xia Xingchen. You are really smart. You guessed it right. Just when Xia Xingchen was shocked, an old and dull laugh suddenly sounded in his mind. Xia Xingchen's face suddenly changed, and he jumped up. Who is it? Who is talking in my brain? Kaldora? Aren't you dead? Xia Xingchen had just been parasitized by Kaldora, and he kept hearing whispers in his brain, so he became a frightened bird. Hearing the strange voice coming from his brain, he was immediately panicked. No, it's me, the source of faith. The crystal pyramid in Xia Xingchen's hand flashed rhythmically, attracting his attention. The source of faith. You can actually speak. Is the artificial intelligence awakened? Xia Xingchen's body was shocked, and he suddenly remembered that he had heard this voice in meditation when he just got the source of faith. The origin of the source of faith is extraordinary. According to Xia Xingchen's speculation, it is very likely that it is the creation of a super civilization, and it is not surprising that it has artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence? The old man couldn't help but laugh. I'm not artificial intelligence. I'm a spiritual life. A life form that is superior to most celestial beings. I have wisdom and the ability to think independently, which is not comparable to artificial intelligence. Haha, I really want to thank you. If you hadn't provided me with spiritual power over the years, and let me swallow the spiritual body of Kaldoroi, I wouldn't wake up so soon. I might have to sleep for decades or even hundreds of years. You have really been absorbing my spiritual power. Xia Xingchen's face suddenly turned cold. No wonder I often encounter bottlenecks. Most of the time I need to rely on external objects to break through. Xia Xingchen had already conducted investigations and research. Most mecha masters practice meditation at a constant speed. But his own practice speed is sometimes fast and sometimes slow. When it's fast, he can make great progress every day. When it's slow, no matter how hard he tries, he will stop moving forward. He must fight for life and death, or rely on external objects, to break through. It turns out that all this is the work of the source of faith. That's right. I have indeed been absorbing your spiritual power. However, your spiritual power is still superior to that of your peers, and you are the best among humans, isn't it? Besides, I have saved you many times. The old man said lightly. You are right. I'm what I'm today, and it is indeed thanks to you. Xia Xingchen was very calm. Since you are an independent life, it is easier to communicate. Just tell me, what is your purpose? Xia Xingchen, do you want to become stronger? The old man suddenly asked. Strong? Of course I do. But this does not mean that I will go against my own heart. Xia Xingchen said seriously. Then continue to become stronger. Of course I have some purpose. But now you are not even a celestial being. You are not qualified to know my purpose at all. In the future, I will help you as much as possible. I'm stronger than you think. I can make you the strongest warrior in the galaxy, or even the universe. The old man said seriously. You can call me Shadow. Old Ying, thank you for helping me all the time. Xia Xingchen has been getting the source of faith for a long time, and has been living with it day and night, and even thinking with its soul. Xia Xingchen could feel that the source of faith was definitely not an evil thing. Xia Xingchen was more grateful than suspicious of the source of faith, and he also respected its consciousness shadow. Not bad. Very good. The crystal pyramid refracted light in the air and condensed into the appearance of a transparent old man, stroking his long beard and nodding slightly, his eyes full of appreciation. Xingchen, you should know in your heart, humanity is in big trouble. You don't have much time left. You must become stronger quickly, at least become a celestial being, said the old man eyeing. I know. Xia Xingchen looked worried. The celestial beings of the spirit race behind Emperor Nicholas. The celestial beings of the mechanical race who could pass through the Stargate at any time and attack the border in the depths of the infinite star abyss. And the quasi-celestial being on Ray who fled to the Northern Empire. These enemies are very difficult, which gives Xia Xingchen a headache. With his current strength, he is definitely unable to cope with them. Of course, the most urgent thing now is a mechanical army that may break into the infinite star abyss at any time and launch an invasion war. In addition to the part 1 absorbed from Kaldora's spirit body, there is still a small part. These are the purest spiritual powers. They don't need to be slowly refined like the power of faith. They can be directly transferred to you. You will be promoted to a quasi-celestial being. Ying Leo said in a deep voice. Quasi-celestial being. Xia Xingchen was shocked. He had seen the terrifying fighting power displayed by Andre, Helis, and Kirissa with his own eyes. Just nodding his head in agreement, Ying Leo could help him be promoted to a quasi-celestial being? There is such a good thing in the world. Xia Xingchen's face was full of disbelief. He knew very well that pie would not fall from the sky. He was able to get to where he is today, and the source of faith did help a lot, but in the final analysis, it was Xia Xingchen who made it all the way through his own efforts and hardships. You are very sharp. Such forced improvement will be detrimental to your future development. You may be stuck at the stage of quasi-celestial being. You will never become a celestial being in this life. Ying Leo showed admiration. There is no such thing as getting something for nothing in the world. Any benefit must be paid for. Forget it. Xia Xingchen shook his head and refused. He didn't believe in getting something for nothing. He entered the Alliance meditation room once without knowing it, and he would not enter it again. Ying Leo's method is no different from that of Kaldoroi, and it has great sequelae, which will affect his future. Although Xia Xingchen is very far away from becoming a celestial being, he has a long-term vision and is already thinking about the future. But if you don't have enough power, how can you get through the difficulties? You killed Kaldori, but the Alliance is still there. How are you going to deal with the 14 elders of the Alliance? They have been brainwashed for a long time and will not suspect that Kaldori is an alien. They will force you to the quasi-heavenly realm. You may not be a match for those 14 elders. Even if you fight your way out by chance, you will break off relations with the Alliance. How are you going to resist the mechanical clan army that is about to arrive? Ying Liu was shocked. In his opinion, Xia Xingchen had fallen into a desperate situation. Even if he got the power of a quasi-heavenly man, he might not be able to win. However, he directly refused. Ying Liu, can Kaldori's remaining spiritual power be transferred to others? Just like it did in the meditation room before? Xia Xingchen suddenly asked. Of course you can. But what's the point of sharing your spiritual power with others? Can they work for you for this spiritual power? The Alliance has existed for hundreds of years, and its members have been brainwashed. They will never betray the Alliance and follow you for this little benefit. Ying Liu was even more confused. Of course they will follow me. Xia Xingchen smiled mysteriously because Kaldori is not dead. I'm Kaldori. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 1469, Control of the Alliance. You are Kaldori? Nonsense. Kaldori has clearly been killed by you. His consciousness has been wiped out. Only the remnant of his spirit body and a small part of his memory remain. Ying Liu suddenly stared, but suddenly understood what Xia Xingchen meant, and his face was full of astonishment. You mean, you want to pretend to be Kaldori, take over the Ascendant Alliance, and become the leader of the Alliance? Ying Liu was shocked on the spot. That's right. Xia Xingchen smiled and nodded gently. Nonsense. It's just nonsense. But, you are already in a desperate situation. Maybe this is the only way to go. Ying Liu was disdainful at first, thinking that this approach was too dangerous, but after careful consideration, the more he thought about it, the more he felt that this was a genius idea. It's not easy to impersonate Kaldori. I can help you release Kaldori's remaining spirit, transfer his spiritual power to other people, and restore the normal use of the meditation room. I also got a small part of Kaldori's memory, which can be passed on to you through the soul. Other than that, it all depends on you. Ying Liu nodded and decided to help Xia Xingchen. Like Xiao Bei, the source of faith and Xia Xingchen are also connected by soul, and can directly transfer memories. Kaldori's massive memories poured into Xia Xingchen's mind, making him look painful, staggering, his eyes black, and he almost fainted. Kaldori didn't know how many years he had lived, at least tens of thousands of years, and his memory was extremely huge. Fortunately, Xia Xingchen was already at the planetary level, and his brain capacity could barely accept this massive amount of information. If Xia Xingchen was still at the nebula level, these memories of Kaldori alone would make his brain explode, and at worst he would die directly, or turn him into a madman. Countless fragments of memory swirled around in Xia Xingchen's brain. He finally absorbed the memory and slowly watched Kaldori's life. The place where the memory began was the bottom of the infinite star abyss. This is the real abyss, empty. No light, no planets, and even no matter. There is only a vast and desolate vacuum. Kaldori didn't know how he was born. From the moment he became conscious, he floated in this void. In this way, tens of thousands of years had passed. Kaldori floated out of the abyss, hid on a meteorite, and began his journey of destruction. Kaldori's existence is to destroy. In the infinite star abyss, intelligent life is rare, scattered on distant planets. Moreover, these intelligent lives are very powerful. Even so, Kaldori destroyed hundreds of planets and nearly 1,000 intelligent races. Kaldori originally planned to destroy humans after obtaining Xia Xingchen's body. Who would have thought that he would die in Xia Xingchen's hands before he could do anything? Looking at Kaldora's memory, Xia Xingchen's body was cold and his heart was full of fear. Kaldora was really terrifying. 10,000 times more terrifying than Xia Xingchen expected. Xia Xingchen was lucky to defeat Kaldora. First, Kaldora's lifespan was too long and his body was seriously aged. He had a strong mental power, but could not use it. Second, the X-Life potion that Xia Xingchen got from Amanda gave him a strong recovery ability, which was really useful. Third, it was also crucial. In fact, it was not Xia Xingchen who defeated Kaldora, but the source of faith, Ying Lao. No matter what, Kaldora is indeed dead, and I'm still alive. Xia Xingchen bowed to the transparent old man in the air again to express his gratitude. Thank you, Ying Lao. Kaldora's memory was of great help to Xia Xingchen. If you want to impersonate Kaldora, you must first deceive the 14 elders of the Alliance. Xia Xingchen learned from Kaldora's memory that these 14 elders of the Alliance were not parasitized by Kaldora's clone Thousand Brains, but they were all brainwashed and believed that they were awakened and a life form higher than humans. Moreover, these elders knew the true face of Kaldora and knew that it would replace a young human body every once in a while. That's easy to do. Xia Xingchen was delighted. Since the elders knew the inside story, it would save a lot of trouble. Well, Xia Xingchen released Xia from the portable space. Master, what do you want? Xia looked like a delicate human girl with a pale face. After the battle with Hellas, it was severely exhausted and had not yet fully recovered. Help me get some scales, shells, tentacles and other Zerg things on my body. I don't need too many. Xia Xingchen said. That's easy. Xia immediately did as he was told and attached some shells and scales to Xia Xingchen's skin. Well, not bad. Xia Xingchen stood in front of the mirror, looked carefully, adjusted the position of some scales and tentacles, and then put on the white robe left by Kaldora on the ground, took a breath, and walked out of the cabin. Outside the door, the 14 elders were anxiously waiting. When they saw the door open and Xia Xingchen walked out in a white robe, they were all slightly startled. Several elders were sharp-eyed and saw some carapace scales on Xia Xingchen's body, and there seemed to be tentacles crawling behind his neck. They immediately understood and knelt on the ground and said happily, "Success. Lord Kaldora succeeded again. Ah. Congratulations, Lord, for getting a satisfactory body." The elders knelt on the ground, with ecstasy on their faces, and shouted, "Everyone, get up." Xia Xingchen had an indifferent expression. He walked to the high platform in the center amid the worship, sat on the chair on it, and looked down at the 14 elders. The progress was smoother than he had imagined. These elders did not dare to doubt his identity at all, and did not even dare to look at him for a second longer. Think about it. Who would have thought that the powerful Kaldora would not only fail to parasitize Xia Xingchen's body, but would be killed instead? The elders stood up and sat down at the elders' table, waiting for Xia Xingchen's instructions. Why is the Master Zora so much weaker? An elder had a strong sense of perception and noticed that the spiritual fluctuations on Xia Xingchen's body were only at the planetary level. He couldn't help but whispered, "It's normal. After the Master changes his body, he will enter a short period of weakness. It will take some time to adapt, and then he will recover his strength and be stronger than before." A senior elder said immediately, "Oh, that's it." The elder nodded hurriedly after hearing this. Although Xia Xingchen has Kaldora's memory, he is not Kaldora after all. Although he deliberately imitated him, it is impossible to be exactly the same. There are subtle differences in his gestures and words. The elders are also powerful and insightful that they quickly noticed this sense of disobedience. However, the elders all thought that this was because Kaldora had just parasitized Xia Xingchen and had not yet fully adapted. Chapter 1470 The Eve of the War. I announced two things. Xia Xingchen took a deep breath, calmed his mind, and began to issue orders. First, from now on, my identity is no longer the fallen Kaldora, but Xia Xingchen. I will live as Xia Xingchen. Only the 14 of you know my true identity. As for the outside world, you will announce that Kaldora is old, dead, and has turned into dust. Before he dies, he will give me the position of leader of the Alliance. Xia Xingchen said. Yes, sir. The 14 elders nodded in agreement. For them, it didn't matter what Xia Xingchen was called, it was just a title. Moreover, in this Awakener competition, all the alliance members knew that Xia Xingchen won and became an ascender. Kaldora's original plan was to pretend to be Xia Xingchen, and he had already informed the elders. Second, from now on, the ascender spaceship will fly to the depths of the endless star abyss. Notify all members of the alliance that we are going to go to war with the mechanical army. Xia Xingchen announced loudly. We are going to go to war with the mechanical tribe? Why? The mechanical tribe is going to destroy mankind. What does it have to do with us? The mechanical tribe is not easy to deal with. It is unwise for us to wade into this muddy water. This time, several elders could not help but raise objections. The mechanical tribe has what I need. As long as I get this thing, I can become a more powerful existence. Take you into the world of celestial beings. I have had enough of this shitty place like the endless star abyss. Xia Xingchen talked nonsense and promised to take 14 elders to break through the galaxy barrier of the Milky Way and enter the world of celestial beings. How developed and beautiful the world of celestial beings is. Xia Xingchen is not talking nonsense, but exaggerating the information obtained from the Universal Civilization Network. The elders' eyes lit up when they heard it, and they were all excited and wanted to enter the world of celestial beings and become celestial beings. Start a war. Aren't they just the mechanical tribe? A pile of junk. We, the Ascender Alliance, are not easy to mess with. We serve you, sir, and we must fight to the death. Help you obtain the mechanical tribe's secret treasure of the starry sky. The elders shouted in indignation. After giving the two orders, Xia Xingchen used the excuse of being too tired to go back and rest, and left the rest to the elders. Yes, sir. The elders left in a hurry to inform the alliance members to make preparations before the war. Sir. Elder Kao Kang shouted and walked over quickly. What's the matter? Xia Xingchen turned around and looked at Kao Kang coldly. In the past, Xia Xingchen was quite grateful to Kao Kang. After all, it was Kao Kang who brought Xia Xingchen into the Ascender Alliance and helped a lot. But Xia Xingchen now knows that Kao Kang had bad intentions from the beginning. He lured Xia Xingchen to join the alliance, just to let the Kaldora eat parasite. If Xia Xingchen wanted Kao Kang to die, it would be too easy. He could just fabricate a crime and make him never stand up again. However, Xia Xingchen did not want to alert the enemy for the time being. My lord, the things you arranged for me last time have been done. Kao Kang said, as if to take credit. What is it? Xia Xingchen looked confused. My lord, you forgot? Oh, maybe I haven't adapted to this body yet, and my memory is a little disordered. It's like this, you ask me to collect many star treasures that can improve my mental power. This is the list, and this is the key to the warehouse. Kao Kang did not dare to ask more questions, and handed the list and a silver key to Xia Xingchen. Well, I know. Xia Xingchen was happy in his heart, but his face was extremely indifferent. He waved his hand and let Kao Kang leave. The news that the Ascender Alliance had started a war with the Mechanical Clan spread throughout the Alliance in an instant. All the Alliance members gathered in the Ascender spaceship to discuss it. Some people agreed and were eager to make military achievements in future battles in exchange for a large number of points. There was also a small number of people who believed that the Mechanical Clan was too powerful and the Alliance was no match for it. Whether in favor or against, the new leader of the Alliance, Xia Xingchen, has already issued the order, and the elders have unanimously passed the resolution. The matter is done, and it is not something that can be changed by their subordinates. The only solution now is to enter the meditation room to practice, and to improve strength as much as possible to prepare for the upcoming war. The number of places in the meditation room was already in short supply, and now it is even more crowded. There are people queuing in front of the meditation room all the time. The alliance points required to enter the meditation room have risen sharply, becoming an astronomical figure, and ordinary teams can't afford it at all. The exclusive room of the first team in the alliance, the Glory team. Captain Gar sat on the sofa, pouring wine into his mouth, with a sad face, and was drinking to drown his sorrows. Seeing that the alliance points earned by Xia Xingchen were consumed day by day, Gar was anxious, and felt like a fire in his heart. The Glory team is nominally the first team in the alliance, and everyone knows that it is all due to Xia Xingchen. Without Xia Xingchen's help, the points earned by the Glory team on their own are pitiful. Although the team members worked very hard and continued to complete tasks to earn points, their strength was limited, and the points they earned were just a drop in the bucket, not enough to maintain the normal expenses of the team. The first team in the alliance is not like the previous 9th rate team, which had to spend money everywhere and had too much expenses. Captain Debbie came over with a happy face, snatched the bottle from Gal's hand, and said, "The alliance has issued team rewards. Guess how much we have issued? Team rewards? The top 10 teams in the alliance have rewards. However, most of them are task sharing. We have completed too few tasks. Although we are temporarily ranked first, we can't get many points." Gal had been in the aura of the first team in the alliance, and he was very clear about the team rewards. According to his estimation, at most, there would be 100,000 points. In the past, 100,000 points were a lot, which could make Gal happy for a while. But now, Gal couldn't be happy. 30 million. Debbie lowered her voice and said mysteriously, "How much?" Gal suspected that he had heard it wrong. 30 million. We got an extra reward of 30 million points. This is a huge sum of money. Debbie couldn't hold back any longer and cheered. The other members heard Debbie's laughter and came over. After learning the details, they were all shocked and dumbfounded. How can 30 million be possible? It's too much. Impossible. Gar shook his head like a rattle when he saw the display on his personal terminal that the team had an extra 30 million points. He was also stunned. "I know. The rumors are true. It's Xia Xingchen. There are rumors that he has become the supreme leader of the alliance. Inherited the position of the fallen Kaldori. It turns out to be true. These 30 million points are given to us by him." Gar's eyes were filled with tears. Chapter 1471. The Four Saints gather together and are invincible. Xia Xingchen? Has he really become the leader of the alliance? The members of the Glory team were all shocked, and then they all showed joy on their faces. But why didn't he come to us? Is he proud of his status and thinks we are not worthy of standing with him? Debbie frowned and said. The room fell into silence. Impossible. I know Xingchen. He is not that kind of person. The leader of the alliance is busy with many things waiting for him to deal with. How can he spare time to come and see us? He gave us 30 million points, which means he has not forgotten us. Gar said loudly. Captain Gar is right. Xia Xingchen is a shy guy, and he is loyal. How could he forget us? When he is done, he will come to us naturally. Everyone laughed heartily and discussed how to spend this huge sum of money to improve their combat power. Gar's guess was not right. Xia Xingchen was not busy at all, but was bored. Kaldori often fell into a deep sleep, and the daily affairs of the alliance were left to the 14 elders to take care of. However, Xia Xingchen could not return to the Glory team to find his companions, because it was very likely that Xia Xingchen's true identity would be exposed. You can hide it for a while, but you can't hide it forever. If you want to convince the elders, you still have to show your strong strength. Xia Xingchen sat cross-legged in the dark room, thinking in his heart. The ascended spaceship was flying towards the depths of the infinite star abyss, and it was possible to encounter the mechanical race at any time and start a fierce battle. Several elders had already become suspicious and suspected Xia Xingchen. Xia Xingchen must shock the whole audience in the battle and dispel the elders' doubts in order to secure his position as the leader of the alliance. Time is running out for Xia Xingchen. I have just been promoted to the planetary level. It is unrealistic to want to be promoted in a short time. The most effective way to improve combat power is to create a new mecha. Xia Xingchen thought about it and made a plan. Xia Xingchen first took out the basalt ice crystal and the white tiger Zhengjin, let Xiaobei swallow them, and refine them in his body. For the insufficient part, Xia Xingchen directly ordered the elders to transfer them from the warehouse. The Ascender Alliance was under Xia Xingchen's control, and it was easy to mobilize metal materials. Xiaobei was weak, and he also needed to devour metals and absorb the nutrients in them to recover his body. The basalt ice crystals and the white tiger Zhengjin were both great supplements for the star-devouring bug. While refining, Xiaobei also gained great benefits. His body recovered quickly, and his strength rose to a higher level. A few days later, a large number of refined basalt ice crystals and white tiger Xingchen were produced and piled up in Xia Xingchen's cabin. The basalt ice crystals were silver white and exuded a bone-chilling chill, like 1,000-year-old black ice. Before ordinary legends could get close, their bodies would be frozen into popsicles. The white tiger Xingchen, emitting golden light, was extremely sharp. Just looking at it made my eyes hurt. If I reached out and touched it, hundreds of bloody cuts from sharp blades would appear on my hands. It can be seen that these two metals are rare secret treasures in the universe. If it weren't for the top power of the Ascender Alliance, it would be impossible to get them. Xia Xingchen placed the space-time beacon and teleported it back to the star domain arc, asking Xia to start making the white tiger mecha and rebuild the black tortoise mecha at the same time. The white tiger Xingchen and the black tortoise ice crystal were refined into the best quality. Once the white tiger mecha was manufactured, it was the strongest form. The performance of the black tortoise mecha also needs to be improved by about 50%. Xia had already prepared the drawings. After receiving the materials, he mobilized more than 90% of the resources of the star domain arc to build two mechas with all his strength. 10 days later, the space-time beacon flashed with blue light, and the two mechas were teleported and appeared in front of Xia Xingchen. One was a tall silver-white mecha with a cold body. It was the remade black tortoise mecha. The chill exuded by the black tortoise mecha was even more bone-chilling, and the armor, shield, and all the parts on the body were strengthened. In addition to the same style as before, it can be said that it was a completely new mecha. The other one was dark gold, exuding a sharp golden light, and was taller than the black tortoise mecha. White tiger mecha. The mecha has a tiger head, dark gold in color, and bright gold tiger-shaped patterns on its body. It is 21 meters tall, twice as tall as the Azure Dragon mecha. Xia Xingchen stared at the white tiger mecha with burning eyes, eager to try. Xia Xingchen finally gathered the 4 sacred beast mechas. According to the Orc High Priest, the 4 saints gather together and are invincible. The Azure Dragon mecha belongs to wood. The Vermilion Bad mecha belongs to fire. The Black Tortoise mecha belongs to water. The White Tiger mecha belongs to gold. The 4 mechas are in line with the ancient Chinese theory of yin and yang and the 5 element. The White Tiger mecha should also be the most powerful of the 4 mechas. Swish. Xia Xingchen couldn't wait, wrapped himself in mental power, flew into the cockpit of the White Tiger mecha, and prepared to test drive. It's so heavy. Xia Xingchen sighed in his heart. The bigger the mecha, the heavier it is. Moreover, the White Tiger mecha is made of refined white tiger Xingchen, which is even heavier. Every step he takes consumes a lot of Xia Xingchen's mental energy. Try the power. Xia Xingchen drove the white tiger mecha quietly away from the generation spaceship and came to a desolate planet. But the magic weapon system was activated, and a golden spear full of Xingchen aura appeared in the hands of the white tiger mecha. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The golden spear kept swinging, and one after another golden half-moon slashes bombarded the surface of the planet, plowing scars on the ground one after another. I'm so tired. Xia Xingchen panted and frowned. Although the attack just now was sharp, it was far from what he imagined. Moreover, it was too mentally exhausting to operate the White Tiger mecha. The White Tiger mecha doesn't seem to have any actual combat capabilities. The attack power is not strong enough, and the mental power and energy are consumed too quickly. It's a bit useless. Xia Xingchen frowned, a little disappointed. Boy, you are too ignorant. You don't know the power of this mecha. The source of faith suddenly appeared, and the figure of an old man floated in front of Xia Xingchen with a smile on his face. Please give me some advice, Ying Lao. Xia Xingchen said hurriedly. Try it. Condense your mental power. Transform it into a weapon in your mind. Ying Lao instructed. Okay. Xia Xingchen immediately did as he was told, and imagined an ancient Chinese longsword with a simple shape in his mind. But the space trembled. A longsword with a cold glow appeared out of thin air and floated in front of him. This is. Xia Xingchen was stunned, staring at the longsword in the air. This is a spiritual creation. Ying Lao stroked his beard and smiled. Xia Xingchen was not surprised by spiritual creations. Mental power is a kind of energy. Energy and matter can be transformed into each other. Xia Xingchen can condense his own original weapon, the drill, with the help of the magic weapon system. With continuous practice, the drill can be stretched and transformed into a spiral spear. Not only Xia Xingchen, but many legendary mecha masters can use the magic weapon system to condense their own original weapons with their mental power. Chapter 1472 Opening the Treasure House. However, what Xia Xingchen was facing was an ancient longsword, not his original weapon, the drill. What was going on? Xia Xingchen looked confused. Try other weapons. Leo smiled as he looked at Xia Xingchen, obviously having expected this result. Halberd. Xia Xingchen imagined an ancient weapon in his mind. But, with a wave of space fluctuations, a red halberd appeared out of thin air and condensed. Another success. Xia Xingchen's heart trembled, and he continued to condense various weapons. Hammer, giant axe, spear, scimitar. Various weapons continued to condense, floating in the void, flashing with scorching light. Not just weapons. Cars, large ships, artillery, and even huge mechas also condensed one after another, occupying a large area of space in the void. Xia Xingchen was like a child who had received a surprise toy, with curiosity on his face, constantly condensing various things to explore the mystery of the White Tiger Mecha. Xia Xingchen's concentration came to an abrupt halt. He just wanted to condense a wooden table, but he failed. What he condensed was an iron table. Apple. Xia Xingchen's thoughts turned. This time he still failed. What his mental power condensed was not a real apple, but an iron apple. Xia Xingchen tried again and again and finally figured it out. The White Tiger Mecha belongs to the metal element and can only condense metal objects, not other substances. Haha, Xingchen, it seems that you have discovered the secret of the White Tiger Mecha. The biggest feature of this mecha is that it can use spiritual creations. Leo smiled. Then what is the difference with my magic weapon system? Xia Xingchen raised his hand and stared at the black bracelet on his wrist. The difference is huge. The ring in your hand is at best a castrated and shrunk version of the White Tiger Mecha. If you use the White Tiger Mecha properly, the attack power will be hundreds or thousands of times that of the bracelet. Leo said. 100 times, or 1,000 times. Xia Xingchen was shocked. The magic weapon system was already powerful enough. Relying on the spiral flying drill and the spiral spears with different attributes, he defeated many enemies that he could not defeat. The attack power of the White Tiger Mecha was 100 times, or 1,000 times that of the magic weapon system. Wouldn't it be possible to smash the stars with one blow? Give it a try. Xia Xingchen's expression condensed, and he was fully focused. He poured his mental power into the White Tiger Mecha, and immediately hundreds of ancient long swords appeared above the mecha's head. Well, it's really different. Xia Xingchen sighed in his heart. The magic weapon system could condense spiral flying drills, but there were only a few. The White Tiger Mecha condensed hundreds of long swords directly. The winner was immediately judged. Go. Xia Xingchen shouted, pointing to the desolate planet. Swish, swish, swish. The ancient long swords immediately flew towards the surface of the planet, and the sword beams flew, dazzling. It's simply the sword immortal from ancient Chinese legends. Xia Xingchen was ecstatic. Although he didn't know how powerful these long swords were, just looking at the momentum was shocking. Boom. Hundreds of flying swords bombarded the surface of the planet, and suddenly a violent explosion occurred, and a deep pit with a diameter of more than 1,000 meters appeared, like a meteorite falling. Awesome. Xia Xingchen shouted excitedly. What Leo said was right. The power of the White Tiger Mecha was much stronger than the divine weapon system. The attack power is not bad. Leo nodded slightly, with a look of approval on his face. Xingchen, you have to remember. The shape of the weapon is secondary. Whether it is a long sword, a giant axe, or a drill, it is condensed by your mental power. The level of attack power depends only on your mental power. Even if hundreds of iron tables and iron chairs are thrown down, as long as the mental power is strong enough, the starry sky will explode. I see. Thank you Leo for your guidance. Xia Xingchen nodded slightly and realized something. Suddenly, Xia Xingchen felt a warmth in front of his nose and reached out to wipe it, and his hands were full of blood. Xia Xingchen's nose bleeds wildly. Stop. Your mental power is not enough to drive the White Tiger Mech. Excessive consumption of mental power will cause your brain blood vessels to rupture. If you continue, your life will be in danger. Ying Leo's face changed, and he hurriedly stopped Xia Xingchen. Xia Xingchen was also shocked. After the omniscience field exploration, it turned out that there were indeed ruptured blood vessels in the brain, which caused the nosebleed. Fortunately, Ying Leo reminded him in time, and Xia Xingchen's healing ability quickly repaired the blood vessels. Otherwise, the consequences would be disastrous. My mental power is actually insufficient. Xia Xingchen was shocked. His mental power was already vast enough. If it were another mech master, wouldn't he have died long ago? There's no way. After all, it's a spiritual creation. The conversion of energy into matter requires unimaginable huge energy. Ying Leo sighed. Your biggest weakness is still that your elm level is too low. No matter how good the mech is, it can't play 100% of its performance. Xia Xingchen didn't dare to drive the white tiger mech anymore. He took out the Azure Dragon mech and returned to the Ascendant Generation spaceship. The top priority now is to quickly improve the level of mental power. Direct transfer of mental power will affect future prospects, so this method is not advisable. If you work hard and practice slowly, you won't have enough time. When Xia Xingchen was distressed, his eyes lit up, and he suddenly thought of the list and warehouse key that Kao Khan gave him. Xia Xingchen immediately turned over the list and was shocked when he saw the records on it. Bloodline fruit, 100 pieces. Lion hair stone, 50 kilograms. Concentric cocoon, 10 pieces. There were hundreds of strange names on the list. Some of them Xia Xingchen knew were natural treasures that could improve mental power. Some of them Xia Xingchen had never heard of, and according to Ying Leo's advice, they were also rare treasures that could improve mental power. For the Kaldori, insect crystals and Zerg corpses are essential foods to maintain survival. It cultivates mental power, just like humans, and also needs a lot of starry sky secret treasures. These starry sky secret treasures are very rare, growing in various secret realms of the universe, or on border planets, with a rare output, and each one is priceless, even a priceless treasure that cannot be bought with money. In the Alliance, these starry sky secret treasures can be exchanged for high points. Therefore, many teams also risk their lives to search for treasures in various secret realms in exchange for points. It can be said that these natural treasures on the list cannot be found in the Imperial Treasury of the Galactic Empire. This shows how powerful the Ascendant Alliance is. Kaldori spent hundreds of years to establish the Ascendant Alliance, which is really a move of waiting for the opportunity. Even if it goes to search for these treasures personally, it is unknown how much time and energy it will take. Xia Xingchen broke into the warehouse directly and saw piles of rare treasures, all piled up like mountains, and his eyes couldn't see enough. Xingchen, these are all good things. You really picked up a treasure. Even Ying Leo's eyes were shining, and he was very envious. He is a spiritual body and can only devour pure spiritual energy. He can see these natural treasures, but he can't use them. Xia Xingchen waved his hand and put a large number of natural treasures in the warehouse into the portable space, and then he felt at ease. Next, Xia Xingchen went to the top of the Generation spaceship, a huge hidden practice room. From Kaldora's memory, he learned that this practice room was built by him after many days and nights, consuming a lot of manpower and material resources. Apart from him, even the elders did not know the exact location of the practice room. Usually, Kaldori would either sleep or hide in this practice room to absorb the free spiritual energy in the universe. This practice room is made of special metal with great gravity, which can absorb and condense a large amount of spiritual energy. Practicing here will get twice the result with half the effort. Xia Xingchen couldn't wait to sit cross-legged in the center of the practice room and immediately entered a deep state of meditation. Chapter 1473 Crazy Training. In the Kadala's exclusive training room, Xia Xingchen sat cross-legged in the center, eyes closed, spirit body wandering in the starry sky, constantly absorbing free spiritual energy. Swish. After an unknown amount of time, Xia Xingchen suddenly opened his eyes, with light flashing in his eyes, and said in shock, Kadala's exclusive training room is indeed extraordinary. The speed of training here is 100 times faster than outside. It's a pity that I have too little time. Otherwise, if I practice quietly here for a year, I will definitely be able to enter the star level safely. Xia Xingchen shook his head and sighed. The current training speed is still too slow. Xia Xingchen whispered. Boy, you are too unsatisfied. With my help, your qualifications are the peak of human beings. In addition to Kadala's exclusive training room, your meditation speed can be said to be unprecedented, and no human can match it. Ying Leo couldn't help but teach him a lesson. Xia Xingchen smiled, and he also knew that he was greedy. However, the war with the mechanical race was imminent, and Xia Xingchen's strength was not enough to drive the white tiger mecha to fight. How could he not be anxious? It can only be faster. Blood fruit. Xia Xingchen stretched out his hand, and immediately a fist-sized vermilion fruit appeared in his palm. This red fruit had clear facial features, just like the ginseng fruit in Chinese legends. This is the blood fruit, an extremely rare starry sky secret treasure that grows in a dangerous universe secret. Even in the treasure house of the Ascendant Alliance, there are only 10 blood fruits, which shows how precious this thing is. Xia Xingchen has heard of the name of the blood fruit. This starry sky secret treasure can be swallowed directly and directly converted into a large amount of mental power. In the Imperial Royal Auction House of Shinyuan Star, a blood fruit can be exchanged for a large starship with top configuration. Snap. Xia Xingchen put the blood fruit into his mouth and bit it into pieces. The sweet and mellow juice filled his mouth, which was extremely delicious. In an instant, a warm current appeared in the blood, flowing to the position of the heart, turning into pure mental power, spreading to the limbs and bones, and it was indescribably refreshing. Finally, the mental power gathered into the mental power ocean in the brain. No wonder the blood fruit is so expensive. You get what you pay for. Only the royal family could enjoy it before. Xia Xingchen couldn't help but exclaimed. The blood fruit was so powerful that it was at least equivalent to a month of meditation. This was because Xia Xingchen's meditation efficiency was top-notch among humans. For other ordinary geniuses, one blood fruit would be equivalent to a year of meditation. And this starry sky secret treasure has such a powerful effect on me. It may be related to the fact that I rarely swallowed potions and food that increase mental power before. Xia Xingchen speculated in his heart. In addition to meditation, ordinary noble children have to buy a large number of mental potions, incense, or starry sky secret treasures such as blood fruit as auxiliary, to improve their mental power. It can be said that their mental power is accumulated by drugs. Xia Xingchen is different. Since obtaining the source of faith, Xia Xingchen rarely uses external objects such as mental potions. He is lucky enough to eat a few of the natural treasures grown in the starry sky secret realm, but he has never spent money to buy them. Any drug has drug resistance. If you take too much spiritual potion, it will become ineffective, and the mecha master's spiritual power will stagnate and fall into a bottleneck. Starry sky secret treasures such as blood relationship fruit will also produce drug resistance. The more you swallow, the worse the effect of the medicine will be. The only solution is to change to a new starry sky secret treasure, preferably a completely different type. For example, blood relationship fruit is a plant fruit, and lion hay original stone is a spiritual energy crystal. Snap, snap, snap. Xia Xingchen tasted the benefits of blood relationship fruit. After completely refining and absorbing the spiritual power of the first fruit, he took out 3 more vermilion fruits and swallowed them directly. His mouth was full of fragrant juice, and his blood was filled with surging spiritual power. The 3 blood relationship fruits were quickly refined, and Xia Xingchen directly ate the remaining 6 blood relationship fruits. Xia Xingchen spent 6 hours to refine the spiritual power of 10 blood relationship fruits. Afterwards, Xia Xingchen took out the lion hay original stone, held it in the palm of his hand, and silently practiced the method of unity of heaven and man to absorb the spiritual power in the spiritual energy crystal. What a waste. What a waste. Even Ying Leo couldn't help but sigh, thinking that Xia Xingchen's method of refining the starry sky secret treasure was too rough. Just like Zhu Beiji eating ginseng fruit, only 30% of the energy was refined, and the remaining 70% was wasted, which made him feel distressed. There is no way, we can only use quantity to make up for the quality. Xia Xingchen didn't care. He knew that these starry sky secret treasures were precious, but with a powerful enemy at hand, he couldn't care so much. In this way, one after another starry sky secret treasures rich in spiritual energy were swallowed by Xia Xingchen, roughly refined, and transformed into huge spiritual power. It must be said that, although Xia Xingchen's method was wasteful and distressing, however, the speed of accumulating spiritual power was extremely fast. In just 1 month, Xia Xingchen consumed all the starry sky secret treasures, and the whole person was reborn. His skin was smooth and delicate, his figure was more upright, his muscles were solid, and his bones were fine. Not only in appearance, but also in Xia Xingchen's brain, the ocean of spiritual power was completely different. The original spiritual power ocean was like a hazy layer of fog, and below it was a misty breath like smoke, which were all spiritual energy. Spiritual energy was originally illusory, elusive, and not a physical entity. But now, the spiritual ocean is like a vast ice field. The illusory spiritual power condensed together and turned into substance, which was a large piece of spiritual crystal. The 4 spiritual planets suspended above the spiritual ocean were also transformed from illusory into entities, transparent, blazing, and shining with dazzling light, completely transformed into crystal planets. Planetary peak. There is still a line to the star level. Xia Xingchen stood up, observing the huge changes inside and outside his body, and couldn't help but smile on his face. The starry sky secret treasures accumulated by Kaldori for many years were consumed, and Xia Xingchen's strength also improved by leaps and bounds. Xia Xingchen is now confident that he can fight against a star-level powerhouse. Even if it is a quasi-celestial being, although he can't defeat it, he won't be as embarrassed as before. White Tiger Mech. Xia Xingchen couldn't wait to enter the cockpit of the White Tiger Mech, driving this tall golden mech towards a huge meteorite. Spiritual creation. Xia Xingchen shouted, and thousands of steel tigers appeared in the void, each of which was lifelike, baring its teeth and claws, like a tiger descending from the mountain, with terrifying power. Swallowing thousands of miles like a tiger. Xia Xingchen did not condense ordinary swords and weapons, nor did he use his own original weapon drill, but condensed thousands of steel tigers, and pointed at the meteorite. Thousands of tigers rushed out, gathered into a torrent of steel, and slammed into the meteorite fiercely. Boom. The meteorite with a diameter of tens of thousands of meters shattered, and turned into powder. So strong. Is this the true power of the White Tiger Mech? Xia Xingchen opened his mouth wide, his face full of surprise. The power of this attack just now was comparable to the main gun bombardment of a space aircraft carrier. Chapter 1474. Everything I see is reduced to ashes. Deep in the boundless abyss of stars. Swish. A dazzling stargate of tens of thousands of meters appeared in the void. The wormhole opened, and thousands of starships flew out. Countless combat robots surrounded the starships. The engines were running, and the space was shaking. The technology of these starships is extremely advanced, and they are man-made. The combat robots are huge. Each of them is 100 meters tall, with heavy armor and weapons all over the body, armed to the teeth. On the leading starship, a golden robot sat on a chair, his eyes flashing with dazzling red light. "I'm back," the robot said coldly. The energy core in his chest was running, emitting terrifying fluctuations, and the space was distorted. This robot is not the original body of the mechanical King Kong, but one of his clones. His original body is too powerful and suppressed by the galaxy laws of the Milky Way, so it is impossible to enter. Therefore, the mechanical King Kong uses a clone to personally command the army of mechanical starships, vowing to completely destroy mankind. Although it is only a clone, its strength is also very terrifying, with a star-level peak. Haha, King Kong, is this the Milky Way that is rumored? What a desolate place. Not far from the mechanical King Kong clone, a silver robot stood by the window, his eyes flashing with cold light, staring at the empty black starry sky outside. Tong Lai, this is not the Milky Way, but the infinite star abyss that connects to the Milky Way. Don't worry. The two of us will join forces to destroy humanity, and it won't take too much time. Mechanical King Kong explained. This Tong Lai, the original body, is also a mechanical celestial being. Like mechanical King Kong, he also belongs to a large family-style guild, and the two have a good relationship. Tong Lai heard that Mechanical King Kong was going to the Milky Way to destroy humanity, and he was also very curious about this fallen land, so he followed to see it. Okay, kill all the way. Use our army to crush all life. Everything I see will be reduced to ashes. Tong Lai sneered. In the infinite star abyss, planets are extremely rare, and there are even fewer planets that can give birth to intelligent life. However, once a planet gives birth to intelligent life, in the cruel environment of survival of the fittest, a powerful race will inevitably evolve. King Kong and Tong Lai commanded the mechanical starship army to charge forward. When they encountered a planet with life, the shipborne Star Destroyer cannons fired in unison, and a planet was destroyed in an instant. Life on the planet was immediately destroyed. Such a terrible genocide. King Kong and Tong Lai, to heavenly beings, did not care. They even talked and laughed, and commented on the intelligent life captured by the combat robots from this planet, locked in cages, and conducted various cruel experiments. In just a few days, 10 intelligent planets were destroyed, and hundreds of races were exterminated. Green Forest Star. This is a rare rich planet in the infinite star abyss. There are huge mushrooms growing on the planet, emitting crystal green light, like one green forest after another. There is an intelligent creature called Green Devil on Green Forest Star. They have green faces and fangs, and look ugly. They are like the devils in human legends, but they have extremely high wisdom and developed civilization, and love peace. The Green Devil extracts an energy crystal from the fluorescent mushroom as fuel, and develops a unique technology. Moreover, the Green Devil can survive in a vacuum, has a strong talent, and is a dominant race in the infinite star abyss. The starship army of the mechanical race came to Green Forest Star, casting a huge shadow on the surface of the planet. On Green Forest Star, hundreds of mushroom-shaped spaceships rushed into the sky. The king of the Green Devil led his guards, holding gifts in his hands, and knelt in front of the starship army of the mechanical race, respectfully welcomed the arrival of the celestial being. The Green Devils were smart enough. They knew that the starship army in front of them was created by the celestial being and they could not stop it, so they surrendered first. Honorable celestial being. We Green Devils are willing to become slaves of the celestial being. We are willing to give our lives to you. The Green Devil King was very sincere. As long as the race could survive, he would not hesitate to lose his dignity and become a slave of the celestial being. Oh, are you willing to give your life to us? Then are you willing to go to war with humans? King Kong had already ordered to destroy Green Forest Star, and was a little surprised to see the Green Devils surrender. We are willing. The Green Devil King said quickly. Although humans are powerful, we Green Devils are all powerful warriors who are not afraid of death. Master, our lives are in your hands. In that case, I order you all to die. King Kong's eyes were cold and dim, and he changed the subject and said, Ah, heavenly man. We are so loyal, and willing to be your slaves. Even this is not okay. You still want to destroy my race? How can you be so cruel and ruthless? The Green Devil King was stunned. I don't like ugly things. King Kong said lightly, and his right hand slowly fell. Boom. The Star Destroyer fired a volley, and the Green Forest Star turned into dust. The Green Devils that remained in the starry sky also died in the hands of the battle robots. You are lying. Tong Lai looked at King Kong with a smile in his eyes. You just hate all carbon-based life. Ha ha ha, you too. King Kong laughed and patted Tong Lai's shoulder. Of course, so we are friends. Tong Lai also laughed, playing with the feelings of the Green Devil. He thought it was fun. Destroying a planet with intelligent life and exterminating an intelligent race, in the eyes of King Kong and Tong Lai, is just a game. Just like a childish game of destroying an ant nest. Whoosh. The mechanical starships continued to move forward and flew over a starry continent. The next stop is the Aranda continent. Countless star-eating insects felt the crisis coming and hid underground and trembled. Humans are too weak. Do they really have the blood of ancient humans? After destroying more than a dozen planets, Tong Lai felt a little bored. We haven't met humans yet. We exterminated the natives in the boundless star abyss. However, humans are not much different from those natives. They are all very weak. When they saw our army, they trembled and fled. King Kong said with a smile. Oh, after destroying this insect nest, we will fly directly to the planet where humans are and kill crazily. Let's leave this boring ghost place as soon as possible. Tong Lai said. Of course, I also find it boring. But, King Kong suddenly lowered his head and looked at the detector. A huge human spaceship was flying towards him. Things seem to be getting interesting. Human warships are actually coming to us on their own initiative? Humans, I can't help but look at you with new eyes and praise your courage and stupidity. A tall golden robot appeared on the big screen in the central square of the Ascender spaceship. It only took the mechanical King Kong a few seconds to hack into the signal system of the Ascender spaceship. In his opinion, the human signal encryption method was too primitive. Chapter 1475, Battle of Irenda. Human. I have brought destruction. You may beg for mercy, but I will not forgive you. The eyes of the mechanical Kong flashed scarlet light, and the whole body flashed with cold metallic luster, as if shrouded in a layer of divine light, extremely dazzling. He was very happy at the moment. After a long interstellar voyage, he finally met the first group of humans, which meant that the human planet was not far away. Is he the mechanical celestial being? They all look like robots, cold and ruthless killing machines. Their starships look very advanced, and their technological level far exceeds that of us humans. In the central square of the Ascender spaceship, the human warriors all looked up and looked at the mechanical Kong on the big screen, with panic on their faces. The mecha divisions in the Alliance were all human warriors. However, it was the first time to fight against the celestial being head-on. In fact, it was not only the first time for them, but also the first time in the long history of mankind. There is a saying in the Galactic Empire, the celestial being can do everything. In the eyes of most humans, the celestial being can be equated with deification. Everyone present was terrified, trembling, cold all over, and trembling from the depths of their bones. I have to admit that the life form of the celestial beings is indeed higher than that of humans. When humans face celestial beings, it is like a rabbit encountering a wolf. Even the bravest rabbit will inevitably panic when seeing the wolf showing its sharp fangs. This is the inevitable level suppression when low-level life faces higher life. Can we win? How can we win? Fighting with celestial beings is a waste of life. Too scary. Celestial beings are really too scary. For a while, people were in panic. Just seeing the appearance of Mechanic Kong and the fleet of powerful starships behind him, the human warriors were afraid and their morale plummeted. Mechanic Kong. The screen switched on the big screen. Xia Xingchen had a cold expression. He was wearing the white robe left by the fallen one called Dory. He looked directly into Mechanic Kong's eyes without any fear. It's you. Xia Xingchen. Mechanic Kong was surprised and blurted out Xia Xingchen's name. The red light in his eyes became even hotter. Of course it's me. Why is it that another clone is coming? Why doesn't your original body dare to come in person? You traveled countless light years, across endless time and space, and rushed here from outside the Milky Way, just to let your clone die, and be destroyed by me again. Xia Xingchen said with a cold look in his eyes. But, Xia Xingchen once killed a clone of Shanren. If it was him, it's not impossible. Is it true or false? Although he is already the leader of the Alliance, his strength is at most planetary level. How could he kill Shanren's clone? Xia Xingchen's words were like a depth charge. Everyone was stunned and talked about it. Although the strength of Shanren's clone is not as strong as the original body, it is also extremely terrifying. Xia Xingchen killed Shanren's clone, and everyone was skeptical and dared not believe it. Hateful. Xia Xingchen, you always go against me. You destroyed my clone. I haven't settled the score with you yet. You also destroyed the starships and engineering robots of my advanced team, causing me to spend hundreds of extra star units to enter the Milky Way. When I think of you, I get so angry that I want to tear you into pieces. Robot King Kong's anger instantly erupted, and he cursed regardless of his status as a celestial being. However, Robot King Kong's words also admitted that Xia Xingchen had killed his clone before, and even the advanced team was destroyed by Xia Xingchen alone. It turns out that Xia Xingchen really killed the celestial clone. Even a powerful celestial being could be manipulated by him. Maybe the celestial being is not as powerful as rumored. Of course the celestial being is terrifying. What is terrifying is the race, not a single individual. Take our human mecha divisions for example. We travel in groups and sweep across the starry sea. We are the undisputed overlords of the galaxy. But if we go to a wild planet alone to perform a mission, we may die at the hands of the technologically backward natives of the planet. That's right. How can we boost others' ambitions and destroy our own prestige? Xia Xingchen's simple words instantly boosted the morale of the human mecha divisions, and the strong men were all eager to fight. I don't want to waste words with you low-level creatures. Xia Xingchen, your courage is commendable, but too stupid. Just relying on these people, you want to stop my mechanical starship army? Today is the day you die. Boom. On the Aranda continent, in the dark space, thousands of mechanical starships were running at full power, emitting dazzling light, like countless suns in a row. Go to war. Everyone, leave the Generation spaceship immediately. Fight to the death with the mechanical race. Xia Xingchen immediately issued an order. The Ascended Generation spaceship is a product of the Earth, and its technology is thousands of years behind the times. Although it has been modified by the Caldori, the performance of this spaceship is almost the same as that of the space carrier produced by the Empire. But compared with the starships of the mechanical race, it is simply a pile of broken copper and rotten iron. The starships of the mechanical race are equipped with the terrifying weapon of the Star Destroyer cannon. After accumulating energy, a salvo can shatter a planet. The Ascended Generation spaceship has no energy shield and does not have enough speed to avoid the Star Destroyer cannon. Therefore, Xia Xingchen asked all mecha divisions to leave the spaceship to fight. The target of the mecha is too small. The Star Destroyer cannon hitting the mecha is like a cannon hitting a mosquito, which can reduce the power of the Star Destroyer cannon to the minimum. Fire. The mechanical King Kong laughed coldly. Instead of using the Star Destroyer cannon, he used a slightly smaller caliber shipborne energy cannon. Thousands of starships and tens of thousands of guns fired at the same time. The dark background of space was full of raging energy storms. The terrible blue light filled the space, like a terrifying sea. From under the sea surface, blazing energy beams jumped out from time to time, tearing the sky apart. Boom. The colorful energy beams were like strips of energy ribbons, shuttling through the storm. The high amount of energy made the space distorted. Kill. Xia Xingchen took the lead. The main body plus 3 crystal clones drove 4 holy beast mechas at the same time and killed the mechanical starship group. He knew that this battle was about the survival of mankind. There could not be any mistakes. Behind Xia Xingchen, the legendary mecha masters of the Ascendant Alliance also swarmed out with an extremely huge momentum. The explosion was deafening, and the energy beams of various colors gathered into a storm, like the aurora, dyeing the sky of the Aranda continent gorgeously. One after another, the energy vortexes moved irregularly, and some landed on the Aranda continent, causing huge gullies to appear on this so-called indestructible continent, and the mountains collapsed. The Star Devourer swarm fled frantically in the torn cracks in the ground. The firepower of the mechanical starships was too fierce, and the artillery fire formed a light curtain, sweeping across like a giant blade, and mechas were constantly hit and decomposed into atoms in the energy vortex. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.